Chapter 9:13. Successful removal. A wisp of black light flowed from Ruan Lingyu's abdomen into Zhuowen's body through his palm. The wisp of black light was inconspicuous, and Zhuowen's body blocked Ruan Xuanfeng's view. Therefore, Ruan Xianfeng did not notice the wisp of black light that flowed out from Ruan Lingyu's abdomen. "Xiao He, is it a success?" Zhuan asked in his heart. "Don't worry. It's a success. The cold air in Ruan Lingyu's dantian has been completely removed, and the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva has been taken out by me. It's in the 7-colored phoenix." As soon as Xiao Hei's voice rang out, a terrifying temperature suddenly spread from Ruan Lingyu's body. Soon after, a clear phoenix cry rang out, and Ruan Lingyu's body actually surged with a 7-colored flame. Boom! The 7-colored flame turned into a thick pillar of fire that shot up to the sky. The temperature in the entire room rose to an extremely terrifying level, turning into a 7-colored sea of fire. What a terrifying flame! Ruan Xianfeng waved his sleeves, and a terrifying gale swept out, blocking the flames that gathered around him. His eyes revealed a trace of horror. The 7-colored flame was indeed terrifying. It was even much more powerful than the ordinary earth fire. Ruan Xianfeng knew that if he were in the center of the 7-colored flame, he would not be so calm. He would definitely be in an extremely difficult situation. For a moment, Ruan Xianfeng was even more curious about Zhu. Where did he come from? The 7-colored flame appeared for a very short time, and quickly gathered into a 7-colored phoenix. It very intimately circled around Zhuowen's body. In the 7-colored phoenix's claws, there was a palm-sized blue crystal. After taking the blue crystal, Zhuowen saw at a glance that there was actually a wriggling and struggling flesh worm inside the crystal. Moreover, the flesh worm's eyes were green, which looked extremely strange. Moreover, the cold air emitted from the blue crystal was bone-chilling, causing Zhuowen's body to involuntarily tremble. "Brat! This is the larva of the 10,000-year black soul ice venomous worm. This is a good thing. The cold air it contains is extremely beneficial to your holy ice rune." Xiao Hei's voice sounded in his mind again. A shadow flashed and arrived at the bedside. At this moment, Ruan Xianfeng looked at Ruan Lingyu with concern and asked softly, "Lingyu, how are you feeling?" Ruan Lingyu slowly opened her eyes. There was a trace of confusion in her gaze. She slowly got up and asked softly, "Father, young Master Zhua, what's wrong with me?" "The cold qi in my dantian has disappeared, and the essence force in my meridians can flow smoothly into my dantian." As if she had discovered something, Ruan Lingyu's beautiful eyes widened. Her gaze was filled with joy. Ruan Lingyu waved her jade-like hand, and a weak wave of origin energy actually condensed in the center of her palm, like a glimmer of light. Has he really recovered? Ruan Xianfeng also saw the origin energy condensed in the center of Ruan Lingyu's palm. He reached out his right hand and grabbed Ruan Lingyu's delicate wrist. The joy in his eyes intensified because he realized that there was indeed no more cold qi in Ruan Lingyu's dantian. The origin energy that was previously blocked by the cold qi was now constantly circulating in Ruan Lingyu's body. The circulation speed was also increasing, and the origin energy was like a trickle that was constantly growing. Ruan Xianfeng released Ruan Lingyu's hand and cupped his hands at Zhu. He said gratefully, "Little brother Zhua, thank you for getting rid of the cold qi in Lingyu's body. We were wrong to have doubted you at the beginning. I hope you can understand." At this moment, Ruan Lingyu also sat up. Her beautiful eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. She smiled sweetly at Zhuowen and said, "Young Master Zhua, this time, it's all thanks to you that the cold qi in my body was removed." Yun shook his head and ignored Ruan Xianfeng. Instead, he smiled at Ruan Lingyu and said, "Miss Lingyu, you're too polite. Back then you saved my life. Compared to this, it's nothing. After all, I've already made a promise to you. Today, I'm just fulfilling my promise. Since this matter has been settled, I won't stay any longer. Goodbye." As he spoke, Zhuowen cupped his hands and was about to leave. However, he was stopped by Ruan Xianfeng. "Is there anything else, Ruan family head?" Zhuowen stared at Ruan Xianfeng and asked calmly. Ruan Xuanfeng's face stiffened slightly, but soon returned to normal. He smiled and said, the cold qi in Lingyu's body has been expelled. This is a joyous occasion. In order to thank little brother Zhuo for your contribution, why don't you stay at our Wan residence for a night and we can celebrate together? That's right. Young Master Zhuo, your contribution this time is great. This cold qi has troubled me for 8 years, and you're the one who expelled it. No matter what, you should stay and celebrate. Wan Lingyu also persuaded Zhuowen. Yun shook his head again and said to Wan Lingyu, there's no need. I'm only here to fulfill my promise. I don't want any reward. Also, Miss Lingyu, it's best if you don't carry the phoenix feather with you. It's not good for you. Phoenix feather? Wan Lingyu was shocked. She removed the flame-like phoenix feather from her bosom and said to Zhuan, young Master Zhuo, ever since I carried the phoenix feather with me, I can clearly feel that my body is much better than before. My complexion is also much rosier. How can it not be good? Seeing Wan Lingyu's puzzled expression and recalling what Leng Feng said about Wan Lingyu and Xianpu's engagement, Zhuan knew that it was better to explain this matter to Wan Lingyu so that she could be more wary of Xianpu. Miss Lingyu, the cold qi in your dantian is released by the larva of a species called the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite. As he spoke, a blue crystal appeared in Zhuowen's palm. Wisps of strange cold qi lingered around the blue crystal. Through the blue crystal, one could see a fat worm wriggling inside the crystal. This worm was very strange. Its eyes were actually green and looked exceptionally disgusting. Looking at the worm in the blue crystal, Ruan Lingyu and Ruan Xuanfeng's faces revealed a trace of disgust. Young Master Zhuo, you mean that this worm has always been in my dantian? Ruan Lingyu asked with a slightly pale face. Zhuan nodded and said, yes. Back then, when you were still young, you were implanted with this parasite. This is an extremely vicious parasite that uses the human body as nourishment and a lathe. It will constantly grow in the human body's dantian. When the person who was implanted with the parasite reaches 18 years old, this 10,000-year-old profound soul ice parasite larva will actually break out of its cocoon and transform into a profound soul ice butterfly. Once it successfully breaks out of its cocoon and transforms into a butterfly, this black soul ice butterfly will treat the person as food and devour them. At that time, the person will die without a burial place. Speaking of this, Ruan Lingyu's beautiful face was incomparably pale. Her lips trembled as she said, how is that possible? Who planted such a vicious parasite in my body? Ruan Lingyu did not doubt the truth of Zhuowen's words. After all, Zhuan had personally removed the worm from her body. It was obvious that he had a better understanding of this type of worm than the average person. This one does not know, but Miss Ruan, the phoenix feather on your body has a catalyzing effect on the growth of this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. If you wear the phoenix feather for a long time, the larva will break out of its cocoon and transform into a butterfly. So, Zhuan did not continue speaking because his meaning was already very clear. Since the phoenix feather had a catalyzing effect on the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva, then the person who gave it to her back then definitely did not have good intentions. Young Master Zhuo, you mean to say that Xianpu intentionally gave this phoenix feather to me? Ruan Lingyu's entire body trembled as she asked. On the other hand, Ruan Xianfeng frowned slightly and said with a slightly cold voice, according to little brother Zhuo's meaning, could it be that this so-called 10,000-year black soul ice parasite was planted by that Xianpu? The Xianpu family has a large family business. If they wanted to choose nourishment, there are so many people in their family. Why did they choose Lingyu? Because Miss Lingyu is a woman born in a Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour. Her body has an innate extreme Yin aura. This extreme Yin aura is extremely beneficial to the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. Without this extreme Yin aura, it would be very difficult for the larva to survive. Zhuowen's expression was calm as he continued, so when facing that Xianpu, Miss Lingyu should be careful. That's just your one-sided words. Don't tell me that Xianpu gave Lingyu a phoenix feather that just happens to have a catalyzing effect on the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. Do you think that Xianpu has ulterior motives? Ruan Xianfeng said coldly. Zhuowen sneered and said mockingly, Master Ruan, If you think that Xianpu's proposal to Miss Lingyu is an opportunity for your Yuan family to soar, then you are gravely mistaken. If you really agree to this marriage, I'm afraid you'll be pushing Miss Lingyu into the fire pit. Nonsense, a bunch of nonsense. That Xianpu truly loves Lingyu. Don't tell me that little brother Zhua came here to break up the marriage between our Yuan family and the Xiaoyan family? I think little brother Zhua's wishful thinking is wrong. Yuan Xuanfeng's words became somewhat impolite. It's up to you to believe it or not. I've already helped Miss Lingyu expel the cold aura, so I won't stay any longer. Goodbye. Casually glancing at the somewhat angry Yuan Xianfeng, Zhuowen's mocking smile became even more intense. How could he not know what Yuan Xianfeng was thinking? After all, the Xiaoyan family was one of the 4 strongest families in Yen City. If the Yuan family could climb up this big tree, it would be of great help to the Yuan family's development. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so it was very difficult for Yuan Xianfeng to reject Xianpu's marriage proposal. Or rather, even if Xianpu had ulterior motives, Yuan Xianfeng would probably agree without hesitation. Zhuowen took a step forward and left the private room. He didn't have any intention of staying. Father, since young Master Zhua helped me expel the cold aura from my body, it means that he is very familiar with the origin of this cold aura. Moreover, I also feel that Xianpu is strange. He is the second young master of an aristocratic family. Why would he suddenly take a fancy to a girl from a small family like me? There must be something fishy about this. Chapter 9:14. Marriage proposal. At this moment, the Yuan clan's martial arts practice field was bustling with activity. The juniors who were originally cultivating were now gathered in the martial arts practice field, looking up at the sky as if waiting for something to arrive. A sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Following that, a griffin that was dozens of feet long descended from the sky and landed in the middle of the martial arts practice field. Its wings were dozens of meters long when spread out. With a flap of its wings, a powerful gust of wind wreaked havoc in the open space. The juniors of the Yuan clan who were nearby were forced back by the gust of wind. Their eyes were filled with shock. On the back of the griffin stood a dozen figures. The leader was dressed in a yellow robe and had a refined smile on his face. If Zhuan was here, he would definitely recognize him. Wasn't this Xianpu whom they had met in the group last time? It's the second young master of the Xiaoyan family, Xianpu. This time, he's here to propose marriage to Miss Yuan, right? It must be. Don't you see that there are so many large boxes on the griffin? Those should be the betrothal gifts prepared by the Xiaoyan family. There are more than 20 boxes. With the Xiaoyan family's influence, the items inside must be pretty good. I didn't expect the Xiaoyan family to propose marriage to our Yuan clan. Although Xianpu's talent is not as good as his brother's, he's still quite famous in Yen City. He's 21 years old and has already reached the peak of the ultimate emperor stage. He's much stronger than our Ling Ying. Around the martial arts practice field, many of the juniors of the Yuan clan stared enviously at Xianpu and the others on the back of the griffin. In their hearts, they fantasized that if they could have even a tenth of Xianpu's elegance, they would not have wasted their lives in this world. Unfortunately, they could only fantasize about it in their hearts. As for whether it could be realized, that was something that they did not know. Xianpu was in high spirits as he led more than 10 people carrying more than 20 large boxes to the griffin. They arrived at the martial arts practice field. I didn't expect young Master Xiaoyan to propose marriage in advance. Welcome, welcome. As soon as Xianpu came down, Leng Feng and Leng Ying walked out from the crowd. After being called out by Yuan Xianfeng, they came to the martial arts practice field and coincidentally met Xianpu. So it's Elder Leng and Miss Leng Ying. Originally, this young master had planned to propose marriage 3 days later, but after thinking about it, this matter should not be delayed. I believe that Yuan clan head and Elder Leng Feng wouldn't mind, right? Xiaoyan cupped his hands politely at Leng Feng. His attitude wasn't particularly humble. Instead, it made him seem a little arrogant. As the second young master of the Xiaoyan family, Leng Feng could not be mentioned in the same breath as him. After all, Xiaoyan Pu's guards were not inferior to Leng Feng in terms of strength. Therefore, Leng Feng and Leng Ying did not feel that Xiao Yanpu's attitude was inappropriate. Instead, they felt that it was only natural. I wonder if Miss Lingyu is doing well? Xiao Yanpu asked gracefully. Leng Feng and Leng Ying looked at each other. After a moment of silence, Leng Ying said softly, "Everything is fine with Lingyu. However, an uninvited guest came to our Yuan residence today. He said that he could completely expel the cold energy from Lingyu's body." What? Completely dispel the chill in Miss Lingyu's body? Who was this person? Did he succeed? Xiao Yanpu asked somewhat anxiously. Xiao Yanpu's behavior did not arouse Leng Feng and Leng Ying's suspicions. Leng Ying continued, "We don't know yet. That person is still in the room trying to expel the cold energy from Lingyu's body. Moreover, this person is no stranger to young Master Xiaoyan. He is the Zhuoan who suddenly disappeared from our group." Thinking about the humiliation she suffered in the room, Leng Ying couldn't help but tremble. Her voice also became somewhat cold. You're saying that the person who came to your Yuan residence to expel the cold energy from Miss Lingyu's body is the young man that your Yuan clan saved last time, Zhuan? Xiao Yanpu's eyes narrowed. His gaze contained a trace of sharpness. The scene of Demon Daozi and Qing Su searching for Zhuoan at the same time was still fresh in Xiao Yanpu's mind. Therefore, after Xiao Yanpu returned to the Xiaoyan clan, he informed the upper echelons of this matter. The upper echelons of the Xiaoyan clan had also sent many people to the forest to search for Zhuan. However, in the end, there was no trace of Zhuoan at all. Now, he didn't expect that Zhuoan would actually come to Yen City and coincidentally run into him. "Young Master Zhua, wait for me. My father didn't mean to say that. Don't be angry." A clear voice suddenly rang out from the depths of the martial arts practice field. It completely attracted the attention of everyone in the martial arts practice field. Even Leng Feng, Leng Ying, Xiao Yanpu and the rest turned their gazes over. This was because they all recognized the owner of this voice. Wasn't it Ruan Lingyu? At this moment, Ruan Lingyu's complexion was much rosier. Her cheeks were rosy and her cloud-like bun had a few strands of ink-black hair draped over her shoulders. At this moment, Ruan Lingyu appeared charming and beautiful. She attracted the attention of many people in the martial arts practice field. Subsequently, the crowd's gazes shifted away from Ruan Lingyu and gathered on the cold-looking young man in front of Ruan Lingyu. The reason for this was mainly because Ruan Lingyu was actually chasing after this young man in front of everyone's eyes. This scene caused the crowd to involuntarily let their imaginations run wild and wild. Perhaps because they realized something, the crowd's gazes shifted away again and landed on Xiao Yanpu. One must know that Ruan Lingyu was Xiao Yanpu's fiancée in name. Today, Xiao Yanpu came to the Ruan residence in high spirits to propose marriage. However, he didn't expect such a dramatic scene to occur. Xiao Yanpu's fiancée, Ruan Lingyu, actually chased after an unfamiliar young man without any reservation. This Zhuan is really something. Xiao Yanpu laughed instead of being angry. However, his gaze became even colder as he stared fixedly at Zhuan. It was as if he wanted to devour someone. Leng Feng and Leng Ying, who were standing beside Xiao Yanpu, naturally saw the former's expression. The two of them looked at each other and the corners of their mouths curled up slightly. Zhuan naturally heard Ruan Lingyu's shouts behind him. However, he didn't want to stay in the Ruan residence for too long. If it wasn't for the promise he made, he wouldn't have stepped into the Ruan residence at all. Moreover, he had to be questioned by the people in the Ruan residence. Zhuan didn't want to suffer this kind of depressing feeling anymore. However, when Zhuan walked into the martial arts practice field, he felt many gazes directed at him. Among them, there were a few that harbored ill intentions. He turned his head and saw Leng Feng and Leng Ying in the middle of the martial arts practice field, surrounded by many of the younger generation of the Ruan family. Apart from that, he also noticed a bone-chilling gaze. Needless to say, this gaze was emitted by Xiao Yanpu. Xiao Yanpu. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuan didn't stop walking. He and Xiao Yanpu had minded their own business. If the latter didn't offend him, Zhuan naturally wouldn't seek trouble for himself. Unfortunately, Zhuan's thoughts were of his own accord. When he reached the middle of the martial arts practice field, Xiao Yanpu blocked his path. "What's the matter?" Zhuowen asked indifferently. What do you think? Ling Yu is my woman. What are your intentions for approaching and seducing her? Xiaoyan Pu stared at Zhuowen condescendingly, a trace of disdain in his eyes. This was because Zhuowen's aura was very weak in front of him. He was only at the ultimate emperor stage. As for the white-browed heavenly sovereign behind Zhuowen, Xiaoyan Pu subconsciously ignored him. This was because the white-browed heavenly sovereign was even more ruthless. He had actually completely concealed his aura. Now, he looked no different from an ordinary person. From which dog's mouth did you hear that I was seducing Miss Lingyu? Zhuowen was still as calm as water as he stared indifferently at Xiaoyan Pu. When these words came out, Leng Ying and Leng Feng's expressions darkened. The corners of their mouths twitched. They were the ones who had told Xiaoyan Pu about this. Now, Zhuowen's words were actually cursing them for having a dog's mouth. Zhuowen, you lecher, are you still trying to quibble? Originally, our master of the Ruan clan believed that you could expel the cold from Lingyu's body. But what did you do? You actually drugged Lingyu and tried to ruin her chastity. Leng Ying suddenly pointed at Zhuowen and scolded him. Leng Ying's words caused an uproar. Everyone stared at Zhuowen and pointed at him. Their faces were filled with disdain. They didn't expect this seemingly harmless young man to do such a beastly thing. Leng Ying, don't speak nonsense. Leng Feng hurriedly pulled Leng Ying back and glared at the latter. How could she speak nonsense like that? After all, Xiaoyan Pu was still here. Leng Ying also realized that she had said something wrong. She immediately fell silent and didn't dare to look at Xiaoyan Pu's darkened face. Lingyu, is what Miss Leng Ying said true? Xiaoyan Pu asked in a low voice. He was the second young master of the Xiaoyan family. Now that he had mustered a large force to propose marriage, what he was waiting for was that his fiancée's purity had been sullied. If this news were to spread out at this time, where would he put his face? Where would the Xiaoyan family behind him put their face? Ruan Lingyu's pretty face turned pale. Her beautiful eyes looked at Leng Ying in shock. She didn't expect Leng Ying to say something like that. Wasn't she trying to ruin her chastity? Nonsense. I was just trying to expel the cold from Miss Lingyu's body. Now that the cold in Miss Lingyu's body has been completely expelled, don't speak nonsense because of some shameless bitch, Zhuowen said coldly. The cold in Lingyu's body has been expelled? Zhuowen, are you messing with us? Even the master of the Ruan clan can't do anything about the cold. How can a second-wheel ultimate emperor realm piece of trash like you cure her? Leng Feng said in disbelief. The cold in Lingyu's body has indeed been expelled. Moreover, little brother Zhuo's character is upright. He didn't do anything improper. I was in the room at the time. A dignified voice sounded. No one knew when Ruan Xianfeng had arrived at the training grounds. Ruan Xianfeng walked up to Xiaoyan Pu and cupped his hands. Young Master Xiaoyan, don't listen to the rumors. That Zhuowen didn't do anything improper. Xiaoyan Pu's expression softened when he heard this. He pointed at Zhuowen and said, if that's the case, I won't pursue this matter. However, this boy spoke rudely to me just now. I want to teach him a lesson. I don't think the master of the Ruan clan will stop me, right? Chapter 9:15. Unlucky Xianpu. As soon as Ruan Xianfeng said that, Zhuowen's gaze immediately darkened. Ruan Xianfeng wasn't speaking up for Zhuowen. He was just trying to clarify Ruan Lingyu's innocence and appease Xiaoyan Pu. Now, this sentence was even more biased towards Xiaoyan Pu. In Ruan Xuanfeng's opinion, even if he, Zhuowen, could successfully expel the cold energy from Ruan Lingyu's body, he would still be nothing compared to Xiaoyan Pu's finger. After all, in Ruan Xuanfeng's heart, Zhuowen was weak, while Xiaoyan Pu was a young master of an aristocratic family. The difference in status between the two was too big. As long as one wasn't stupid, they would take the opportunity to curry favor with Xiaoyan Pu. Father, how can you do this? Young Master Zhuo successfully expelled the cold energy from my body. He is the benefactor of the Ruan clan. How can you do this? Ruan Lingyu was indignant. Just as she was about to walk toward Zhuowen, she was pulled back by Ruan Xianfeng. His powerful origin energy confined her in place, making it impossible for her to move. Lingyu, Zhuowen fulfilled his promise to help you expel the cold energy. Now that he has succeeded, he has nothing to do with the Ruan clan. Therefore, there is no need for the Ruan clan to help Juan. Also, young Master Xiaoyan personally came to propose marriage. You should prepare well. I will send you to the Xiaoyan clan to marry young Master Xiaoyan, Ruan Xianfeng said indifferently. At this moment, Leng Feng and Leng Ying also came to Ruan Xuanfeng's side. The two of them said, Master is right. How can Juan be compared to young Master Xiaoyan? Young miss, please don't go astray and listen to the words of an unruly person. Meanwhile, Xiaoyan Pu's expression had turned ugly. This time, he had brought a lot of people to propose marriage, and Ruan Lingyu was his fiancée in name. But now, his fiancée was protecting a stranger. How could Xiaoyan Pu's expression be any better? You're really shameless. I don't know what drug you gave Lingyu to make her help you like this. Now, I'll give you a chance. Kneel in front of me and bark 3 times. Then, cripple your cultivation and I'll let you leave the Ruan clan. I won't take your life. Xiaoyan Pu stared at Zhuowen from high above. His eyes were filled with indifference. Clearly he didn't care much about Zhuowen. After all, what could a mere second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator do? Zhuowen's gaze became increasingly gloomy. He glanced indifferently at the faces of Ruan Xianfeng and the others, and his gaze was filled with killing intent. His sides was intolerable. Worse was. Sues? Not to listen to the hymns. Tuzes. Scram. After Zhuowen spat out this word, he suddenly threw a punch at Xiaoyan Pu in front of him. This Xiaoyan Pu was like a housefly, buzzing around his ear, causing Zhuowen's mind to be in a mess. Looks like you're courting death. Seeing Zhuowen's fist coming at him, Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His right hand formed a claw, and a terrifying yuan power gushed out. He fearlessly met Zhuowen's fist with his claw. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Immediately, Xiaoyan felt a sharp pain in his right claw. Then, he was shocked to find that his right claw had been twisted by Zhuowen's punch. The bones in his arm had broken and pierced out of his shoulder. Drip. Fresh blood splattered down. Xiaoyan's miserable howl filled the air. Then, a figure flew out and landed heavily on the ground dozens of meters away. Swoosh, swoosh. Everyone's gazes gathered in that direction, only to see a figure hugging his right arm in a sorry state. He was howling and struggling as bright blood dripped from his right arm, forming a small stream on the ground. When everyone's gaze shifted to the miserable figure's face, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The one who had been sent flying with a single move and had his right arm crippled was none other than Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan was a powerful 4-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, but the young man in front of him had a weak aura. He looked like he was only a 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. However, the result of their exchange was that Xiaoyan's right arm was crippled and he fell to the ground, screaming in pain. The other person was unscathed. A piece of trash like you dares to be so arrogant in front of me? You even threaten to make me kneel down and bark, and cripple my own cultivation? Zhuowen smiled coldly. He took a step forward and was about to charge at Xiaoyan again. How dare you, thief! How dare you! A loud shout rang out. Immediately, the dozen cultivators behind Xiaoyan flew out. Zhuowen's attack had been too fast. Before they could react, Xiaoyan's right arm had been crippled, and he was in such a sorry state. Now that they had all come back to their senses, they were all shocked and furious. They looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of cold killing intent. The dozen cultivators that Xiaoyan had brought with him this time were not weak. The strongest among them was around the 7-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm, and the weakest was at the 4-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm. The combined power of these dozen cultivators was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen hid his cultivation from the beginning? Ruan Xianfeng, Leng Feng, and the others also saw the scene just now. Their faces revealed thoughtful expressions. It was obvious that Zhuowen's sudden outburst and defeat Xiaoyan with a single punch was somewhat out of their expectations. Zhuowen is dead for sure. He crippled Xiaoyan's right arm. He's destined to be hunted down by the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. Leng Ying came back to her senses and a cold smile appeared on her pretty face. Ruan Xianfeng and Leng Feng nodded. They had all experienced how terrifying the Xianpu aristocratic family was. After all, such an aristocratic family had a powerful golden venerable realm ancestor in charge. Such an existence was supreme and unapproachable in their eyes. It was precisely because of the strength of the Xianpu aristocratic family that Yuan Xianfeng was biased towards Xianpu. As for Zhuowen's strength that surpassed Xianpu's, Yuan Xianfeng was quite moved. Unfortunately, Yuan had no backing. How could he be compared to the Xianpu aristocratic family? Therefore, even though Yuan Xianfeng knew that Xianpu had gone overboard, he still had no intention of helping Zhuan. Father, how can you repay kindness with ingratitude? Xianpu kindly came to the Yuan clan to help you. Why don't you help him? Yuan Lingyu's pretty face was filled with shock and anger, especially after seeing that Zhuan was surrounded by the Xianpu aristocratic family's warriors. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Unfortunately, she was now confined to the spot by Yuan Xianfeng and could not move at all. Otherwise, she would have risked her life to help Zhuan. Fool! Don't be silly. Zhuan crippled Xianpu's right arm, so he has already formed a grudge with the Xianpu aristocratic family. If we help Zhuan deal with the Xianpu aristocratic family, then our Yuan clan will be doomed eternally. Yuan Xianfeng shook his head. Father, Xianpu's identity is mysterious and his strength is very strong. In addition, he can expel the cold air from my body. Do you think Xianpu's background is weaker than the Xianpu aristocratic family? Perhaps the power behind Xianpu aristocratic family is not weaker than the Xianpu aristocratic family. If we help Xianpu aristocratic family, we will be able to gain the favor of the power behind him. Moreover, the Xianpu aristocratic family proposed marriage to our Yuan clan for no reason. There is something fishy in itself. Don't be blinded by benefits, okay? Yuan Lingyu scolded somewhat angrily. Yuan Xuanfeng's actions disappointed her. Yuan Xuanfeng's gaze froze. What Yuan Lingyu said was not without reason. Zhuan did not look like a rogue cultivator. After all, the strength he displayed was indeed not inferior to the average aristocratic family's disciples. In fact, he was even more outstanding. Generally speaking, a young martial artist with such talent and strength would be backed by a powerful force. Master, don't listen to such words. We were the ones who saved Zhuan. Moreover, from the looks of it, he was being hunted down. Even if he is a disciple of a big family, looking at his sorry state, I'm afraid that even if he has a powerful force behind him, he has already been eliminated, Leng Feng suddenly said. Yuan Xianfeng nodded and said in a deep voice, Elder Leng's words are not without reason. Yun has always been a lone wolf. He doesn't look like a warrior with a powerful force behind him. Moreover, even if he does, I'm afraid that it might not be comparable to the Xianpu aristocratic family. So, let's just wait and see what happens next. Having said that, Yuan Xianfeng stopped talking. His gaze was fixed on Zhuowen, who was in front of him, as well as the dozen or so extremely powerful warriors surrounding Zhuowen. Yuan Xianfeng was indeed an old fox. He knew that if he chose the wrong side, it would be a devastating blow to the Yuan clan. Therefore, he could only wait and see. In the end, no one could blame the Yuan clan. At this moment, Yuan stared indifferently at the dozen or so warriors around him. With a wave of his right hand, he took out a blood spear from his spirit ring and said indifferently, The one who offended me is Xianpu, not you. If you don't want to die, scram. What an arrogant tone. Do you really think that you're invincible after defeating Xiaoyan? Later, we'll let you have a taste of what it's like to live a life worse than death. The strongest man in the lead licked his lips and said coldly, If that's the case, then all of you can die. After saying that, Zhuowen didn't waste any more words. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body turned into a bloody shadow, and his speed soared to the extreme. It was as if hundreds of Zhuowen's bloody shadows had appeared in the surrounding space in an instant, dazzling everyone who saw it. Deliberately mystifying. Let's go together and take this person down. The leader shouted coldly. Although the blood shadow that suddenly appeared was extremely fast, he was not afraid. After all, they had more people on their side. He did not believe that Zhuowen could escape from his grasp. Chapter 9:16. Qing Luo's guardian dead? The leader's heart sank when he saw the dozen or so people behind him being killed in an instant. His face was pale and he couldn't hide the shock in his heart at all. He did not even see how the dozen or so people behind him had died. How could he not be shocked? After all, he was an ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm ancient martial art practitioner. Even he did not see how Zhuowen had killed his subordinates behind him. "It's your turn now." A cold voice rang out. A blood spear pierced out as if it was illusory and swept towards the man's back. Clang. The man broke out in a cold sweat. However, he was quite experienced in battle. He reached out with his right hand and a green spear appeared in it. He threw it behind him. The sound of metal clashing rang out and sparks flew. Then, the man felt a huge force coming from the spear in his hands. He groaned and retreated. After retreating a dozen steps, the man stared at the youth holding the blood spear in front of him. His heart was like waves in the water. An uproar broke out among the crowd in the martial arts practice field. There were even quite a few younger generation members whose faces were flushed red with excitement. Zhuan was also young, but the strength he had displayed was so terrifying. How could they not want to be like Chun, who could make others tremble in fear with a wave of his hand? How is this Zhuan so strong? Yuan Xianfeng and Leng Feng finally revealed shocked expressions. They were already shocked that Zhuan had defeated Xiaoyan Pu with a single move. However, the dozen or so subordinates of the Xiaoyan family had attacked. The weakest among them was an ultimate four-wheel emperor. However, such a lineup had been killed in the blink of an eye. Only one person was left. Moreover, this remaining person was an ultimate seven-wheel emperor expert. However, he was in a sorry state when facing Zhuan. He was panicking and helpless. It was obvious that Zhuowen's hidden strength was above that of an ultimate seven-wheel emperor. Leng Ying was even more stunned. Her beautiful eyes stared at the dozen or so subordinates of the Xiaoyan family who had died. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. What's going on? When did this trash Zhuowen become so strong? Even ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm ancient martial art practitioners are no match for him? Leng Ying muttered softly. She was still in disbelief. The reason why Lord Zhuo was so weak back then was because he was severely injured. Now that his injuries have healed, his strength has naturally recovered as well. Yuan Lingyu shook her head and explained when she saw the look of disbelief on Leng Ying's face. So what if he was strong? At most, he's at the pinnacle of the seven-wheel emperor realm. He's no match for Xiaoyan Qinglin of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. Moreover, he killed a member of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family, so he'll definitely be hunted down by the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. He'll definitely die. Leng Ying snorted coldly. Perhaps it was because Leng Ying realized that the trash from back then had become so strong that she felt a tinge of jealousy in her heart. Coupled with the fact that Zhuan had slapped her a few times just now, Leng Ying hated Zhuan to the bone. She couldn't wait for him to die. Looking at Leng Ying's expression, Yuan Lingyu could more or less guess what she was thinking. However, she didn't say anything. She only shook her head and stared worriedly at Zhuan, who was holding the blood spear. Although the strength Zhuan had displayed was terrifying, and he could even fight against an ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm expert, the Xiaoyan aristocratic family wasn't so simple. Today, Yuan had killed a member of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family, so the Xiaoyan aristocratic family definitely wouldn't let him off. Zhuan stomped his foot, and his entire body turned into a blood shadow as he rushed toward the Xiaoyan aristocratic family cultivator. With a swing of his blood spear, a boundless sea of blood swept out from the void and ruthlessly crushed toward the Xiaoyan aristocratic family cultivator. Damn it! Break for me! The Xiaoyan aristocratic family cultivator's eyes were gloomy. He flicked the long spear in his hand upward, and waves of green energy swept out from the long spear like a long river. They poured out in torrents and swept toward the sea of blood in the sky. Bang! The green river collided with the sea of blood, causing a terrifying explosion. The green and blood-colored water droplets mixed together, and a strange rain of green and blood-colored water droplets fell from the sky, pitter-patter. A heavenly might-like voice was transmitted from deep within the sea of blood. Immediately, A partially visible figure suddenly rushed over and arrived in front of the long green river in an instant. After which, a blood spear slowly rushed over as though it had penetrated through space. Finally, it stopped in front of the long green river. Rumble! A deafening sound rang out. Soon after, the green river completely collapsed at that moment, shattering into countless streaks of green light. Swish! The sea of blood swept out, forming a revolving, blood-red vortex. Jun stood at the center of the vortex. His eyes were cold as he immediately shot toward the Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator. Piss off! Seeing the terrifying blood-red vortex, a sliver of fear finally appeared in the eyes of the Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator. However, he also knew that if he fled, he would definitely be killed by Zhuowen. Only by taking the initiative to meet the attack would he have a chance of survival. The Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator fiercely stabbed the green spear into the ground. His hands formed a seal, and green light surged out from his body like a monstrous wave. With him as the center, an endless sea of green light spread out. Green net protection. With a low roar, the Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator slammed his hands on the ground. The surrounding green sea actually started to violently revolve around the green spear, forming a terrifying defense. It's useless. Your defense won't be able to stop me. Zhuowen's voice rumbled like thunder. The blood-red vortex arrived in an instant, pressing against the edge of the green sea of whirlpool. Subsequently, Zhuowen spat out yuan power from his right palm. Golden light flickered, and a hole was blasted open at the edge of the green sea. Then, Zhuowen drilled into it like a hot knife through butter. Swoosh! Yun was extremely fast, and arrived at the center of the green sea in an instant. The Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator had clearly not expected that Zhuowen would be able to pass through the green sea so easily and arrive at the center of the green sea. By the time the Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator had reacted, a blood shadow had pierced through his chest at lightning speed. Soon after, he realized that his chest had been pierced by a blood spear at some unknown time. On the other side of the blood spear's handle, a young man with a sinister gaze was indifferently looking down at him. You? Who exactly are you? The Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator spat out a mouthful of blood as he stared at Zhuowen and asked the question in his heart. The Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator was an ultimate seven-wheel emperor expert, but the young man before him had killed him like a dog. How could he not know that the latter was much stronger than him? Moreover, this person was so young and was definitely not a nobody in Yen City. This was because the geniuses of the younger generation who had the strength to kill an ultimate seven-wheel emperor expert were basically all ranked on the flame god list. However, the young man before him did not lose out to any of the geniuses on the flame god list. I am not from Yen City, Zhuowen indifferently replied. As expected. However, you have offended our Shaoyan aristocratic family. You will not be able to escape from the clutches of the Shaoyan aristocratic family in Yen City. Your fate will also be death. The Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator knew that he was going to die, so he simply laughed out loud. Then you can rest in peace, Zhuowen indifferently said. He exerted force with his right hand and the blood spear suddenly began to spin. Waves of terrifying blood energy spread out and the Shaoyan aristocratic family cultivator was instantly blown into a bloody mist. What exactly happened inside? Who won and who lost? At this moment, everyone in the martial arts practice ground stared unblinkingly at the blood sea vortex and the green ocean. When the two energy spheres had collided, they had been in a deadlock. No one had been able to see what had happened inside. This is the ultimate seven-wheel emperor's desperate move. Even if Tuan does not die, he will be seriously injured. Yuan Xuanfeng's eyes flashed. He could naturally see that the ultimate seven-wheel emperor had used all of his strength to execute this terrifying move. Zhuowen's performance was indeed monstrous. However, the green ocean was the ultimate move of that warrior. No matter how strong Zhuowen was, it was impossible for him not to be affected. Lung Feng and Lung Ying nodded. They were also looking forward to seeing how miserable Zhuowen would be. If they had the chance, They would not let go of any opportunity to let Zhuan leave this place alive. At this moment, Xiao Yanpu, who was not far away, had already arrived beside Wan Xianfeng and Leng Feng with the help of the Ruan aristocratic family disciples. His face was extremely gloomy. He could clearly feel that all the bones in his right hand had been shattered. Zhuan had not shown any mercy and had not given him any leeway. He knew that his right arm was really going to be crippled from now on. "When you damn bastard. You better die. Otherwise, I will let you have a taste of what it feels like to live a life worse than death." Xiao Yanpu muttered coldly. Boom. At this moment, the green ocean and the blood sea whirlpool finally collapsed completely and turned into countless light spots that filled the entire space. The result is about to be out. Many pairs of eyes gathered together. All of them knew that the blood sea swirl and the green ocean had collapsed. It was likely that the battle within had also ended. However, it was still unknown who had emerged victorious. Dang dang dang. A clear sound of footsteps was heard. A tall and straight figure slowly walked out from the green and blood light spots. His right hand was holding a blood spear that was about 10 feet long. The blood spear was propped up on the ground. As he walked, the friction between the spear and the ground created sparks. The ear-piercing sound stimulated everyone's eardrums. "It's Yuan. That Yuan has won. Moreover, he seems to be unharmed?" Looking at the figure that was slowly walking out, the crowd burst into an uproar. Xiao Yanpu stared at the figure that was walking out. He gritted his teeth and the hatred in his eyes was extremely deep. If looks could kill, Xiao Yanpu's gaze would have killed Zhuan several times over. Unharmed? This Zhuan is actually unharmed after the desperate attack of a 7-wheel ultimate emperor? Wan Xianfeng, Leng Feng, and Leng Ying were all stunned. This was because not only was Zhuan unharmed, but his body was also clean and tidy. However, the 7-wheel ultimate emperor had completely disappeared. Chapter 9:17. Xiao Yanpu's Deathwowen raised his head slightly as he walked out from the countless specks of light. His gaze swept past the crowd in the martial arts practice field and landed on Xiao Yanpu, who was standing beside Leng Feng. A substantial killing intent burst forth and descended upon Xiao Yanpu. Xiao Yanpu felt a chill in his heart when he felt the chilling killing intent. He involuntarily took a step back and stared at Zhuan. He said coldly, "You're getting bolder and bolder. You actually dared to kill someone from the Xiaoyan family. Now, you better know what's good for you and take the initiative to apologize to the Xiaoyan family. Perhaps the Xiaoyan family will spare your worthless life." Dang dang dang. Zhuan's gaze was cold and emotionless. He walked step by step toward Xiao Yanpu without saying a word. Xiao Yanpu felt a chill in his heart when he saw Zhuan's actions. He took a step back and hid behind Leng Feng. He stared at Zhuan with fear. "Zhuan, you're too bold. Killing someone from the Xiaoyan family is already an unforgivable crime. Now, you want to commit a heinous crime against the Xiaoyan family?" Leng Feng consciously stood in front of Xiao Yanpu and stared coldly at Zhuan, who was slowly walking toward him. However, Zhuan still did not say a word. He was expressionless as he slowly walked forward. His killing intent surged like a monstrous wave. Leng Feng, who was standing in front of Xiao Yanpu, stiffened and revealed a furious expression. "I think you're courting death. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being impolite." Leng Feng snorted. He took a step forward and dashed toward Zhuan. He wanted to kill Zhuan. Zhuan glanced indifferently at Leng Feng, who was rushing towards him. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body transformed into an illusory blood shadow and instantly disappeared from the spot. Boom! Leng Feng's attack had already reached the ground where Zhuan was standing. The violent attack poured out and caused the ground to crack, forming a huge crater. "This little bastard is really slippery." Leng Feng's eyes darkened. He seemed to have realized something. He quickly turned to Xiao Yanpu and shouted, "Not good." Indeed, a blood shadow had already appeared in front of Xiao Yanpu. Zhuan's right palm spat out elemental energy, mercilessly striking Xiao Yanpu's body. Xiao Yanpu's face was full of panic. After his right hand was crippled by Zhuan, he feared Zhuan like a tiger. He didn't dare to face Zhuan directly. At this moment, Seeing Zhuowen's attack descending, Xiao Yinpu could only helplessly block it with his left hand. He spat out his origin energy in an attempt to block Zhuowen's attack. Gotcha! Another crisp bone-cracking sound rang out clearly in Xiao Yinpu's ears. Immediately, extreme pain spread throughout his body. Xiao Yinpu spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. He landed heavily on the ground. His hands were twisted in an irregular manner, and he couldn't move them at all. It was obvious that Xiao Yinpu's hands were completely crippled. Miserable shrieks unceasingly resounded across the training grounds, causing the hearts of the other people in the training grounds to turn cold. When their gazes gathered on Zhuowen's body, they were all filled with fear. The young man in front of them was too ruthless. Xiao Yinpu was the second son of the Xiaoyan family. Now, this person completely disregarded the power of the Xiaoyan family and crippled Xiao Yinpu's arms. This was even more painful than killing Xiao Yinpu. Zhuan arrived in front of Xiao Yinpu in an instant. His right foot stomped heavily on Xiao Yinpu's chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood and almost pass out. Previously, you said that if I kneel down, bark 3 times, and cripple my own cultivation, you would spare my life. Now, do you still have the right to say that? Zhuan stepped on Xiao Yinpu's body and looked down at him. The coldness in his eyes was extremely dense, like the ice in the deep sea. Don't kill me. I'm the second son of the Xiaoyan family. If you kill me, the Xiaoyan family will definitely chase you to the ends of the earth. You'd better not kill me. Xiao Yinpu panicked and spoke without thinking. Boom! Zhuan stomped his foot again. Xiao Yinpu spat out a mouthful of blood and his chest caved in irregularly. You still want to use the Xiaoyan family to threaten me? Now that your life is in my hands, do you think you have the right to threaten me? Zhuan said indifferently. Xiao Yinpu's aura became extremely weak. He stared at Zhuan and said in a low voice, Then, what do you want in order to let me go? Enough. Yun, don't go too far. This is my Ruan family's territory. Don't you think that you're looking down on me, the patriarch of the Ruan family, by being so arrogant here? Ruan Xianfeng finally opened his mouth and stared at Zhuan. A trace of coldness filled the air and the aura in his body surged out. Ruan family head's meaning is that all this is because of me? Then I'd like to ask Patriarch Ruan, who was the one who was so aggressive in the beginning, blocking my path and not letting me leave? Why didn't Patriarch Ruan stop them at that time? And after the people of the Xiaoyan family tried to kill me, why didn't Patriarch Ruan stop them at that time? Now that the people of the Xiaoyan family were killed by me and Xiao Yinpu was trampled under my feet, you suddenly opened your mouth and asked me not to go too far? Don't you think your way of doing things is ridiculous? Slightly raising his head, Zhuan calmly stared at Ruan Xianfeng with a cold smile. This Ruan Xianfeng was really a snob. In order to climb up the branch of the Xiaoyan family, not only did he sacrifice his own daughter, he even inverted the truth. The more Zhuan looked at this kind of face, the more disgusted he felt. Ruan Xuanfeng's face stiffened and his gaze was gloomy. Just as he was about to speak, Leng Ying suddenly interrupted. Who do you think you are? Can you be compared to the Xiaoyan young master? You'd better let go of the Xiaoyan young master now. Otherwise, you'll die without a doubt. Noisy. Zhuan glanced at Leng Ying indifferently and released origin energy from his right palm. Instantly, a suction force surged out. Leng Ying was caught off guard and was pulled forward by the suction force. Without any resistance, she was caught in Zhuowen's palm. Slap. With a slap, a 5-fingered handprint appeared on Leng Ying's swollen cheek. Even a bloody tooth flew out. Zhuan didn't hold back at all in this slap. Vin, you bastard, you dare to hit me again? Leng Ying was almost mad with anger. At the beginning, Zhuan had slapped her twice in the hall. At that time, there weren't many people in the hall, so Leng Ying didn't feel too humiliated. She only felt very angry. But now, all the disciples of the Ruan clan were gathered in the martial arts arena. In front of everyone's eyes, she was held in the hands of Zhuan like a little chick. She was even slapped by Zhuan in front of countless people. I said you're too noisy. Zhuan said indifferently. With a backhand slap, a loud slap sounded again. Both sides of Leng Ying's face swelled up, revealing a bright red handprint. Lung Ying was completely silent. She covered both sides of her face and didn't dare to say another word. Zhuan was completely unrestrained. "Zhuan, you bastard, let go of Lung Ying," shouted a loud voice. Lung Feng was like a great rock spreading its wings as he flew toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen frowned. He threw Lung Ying towards Lung Feng with his right hand. Lung Feng's eyes narrowed. He stomped his foot in the air and stopped his forward momentum. Then, he raised his right hand and caught Lung Ying, who was flying towards him. "Zhuan, don't go overboard. As long as you let go of Prince Xiaoyan now, we'll immediately let you leave the Ruan clan." Ruan Xianfeng slowly walked toward Zhuowen, a terrifying aura gushing out. "Ruan Xianfeng, I, Yun, have never seen such a shameless person in my life. Do you really think I don't know what you're thinking? You just don't want to offend the Xiaoyan clan. Moreover, you think that I, Zhuan, am weak. Am I right?" Zhuowen's indifferent words caused Ruan Xianfeng to stop in his tracks. His eyes narrowed as he said, "What are you trying to say?" "What I want to say is that I'm not afraid of the Xiaoyan clan. You better not provoke me, Zhu. Otherwise, your end will be even more miserable than Xiaoyan Pu's." At this point, Zhuan pinched the blood spear in his right hand. Like a blood-red lightning, it streaked across Xiaoyan Pu's neck. Wu, Xiaoyan Pu clutched his neck. His mouth was filled with blood as he let out a vague whimper. His eyes were fixed on Zhuan. Even until his death, he did not expect that Zhuan would actually kill him. He died unwillingly. For a moment, the entire martial arts practice field fell into a strange silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on Xiaoyan Pu, whose neck had been pierced by the sword. Xiaoyan Pu whimpered for a while before he completely lost his breath. His eyes were wide open as he died with grievances. The Xiaoyan Pu actually died in front of them just like that. "You actually dared to kill Xiaoyan Pu?" Ruan Xianfeng coldly snorted as he stared at Zhuan. A terrifying murderous aura burst out, and Ruan Xuanfeng's heart had already sunk to the bottom. Xiaoyan Pu came to the Ruan clan today to propose marriage. It should have been a happy occasion, but now it had become a funeral. Ruan Xianfeng knew that the Ruan clan could not escape from the responsibility of Xiaoyan Pu's death. If the Xiaoyan clan were to blame them, the Ruan clan would really be finished. Zhuowen's gaze was calm as he said indifferently, "Why is the Ruan clan head so agitated? What I want to ask is Xiaoyan Pu a disciple of the Ruan clan?" "No." Ruan Xuanfeng's expression was ugly as he replied. "If not, then why is the Ruan clan head so agitated? Now that Xiaoyan Pu is dead, this matter is over. I won't stay here any longer." With a faint smile, Yun took a step forward. Under everyone's gaze, he was about to leave the Ruan clan. However, Yun had only taken a few steps when he was blocked by a figure. Raising his head slightly, the person blocking Zhuan was Lung Feng. At this moment, Lung Feng was looking down at Zhuowen and coldly said, "You want to leave after killing someone? Do you think that the Ruan clan is a place where you can come and go as you please? Then what do you want?" Zhuowen raised his eyebrows and sneered. Chapter 9:18. Shed all pretense of cordiality. If you can agree to this condition, we can let you leave the Ruan family. Ruan Xianfeng slowly walked until he was 10 meters behind Zhuowen. He spoke casually as if what he said was insignificant. Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. Ruan Xianfeng was really arrogant. He actually proposed such a condition. He actually wanted Zhuowen to bind his own arms and go to the Xiaoyan aristocratic family personally to show that killing Xiaoyan Pu had nothing to do with the Ruan family. What does my killing of Xiaoyan Pu have to do with the Ruan family? And what right do you have to make me bind my own arms and go to the Xiaoyan aristocratic family? Who do you think you are? Zhuan slowly turned his head and said in a cold voice. Since Ruan Xianfeng had shed all pretense of cordiality with him, Zhuan had nothing to fear. Previously, he didn't want to deal with the Ruan family because Ruan Lingyu was the daughter of the Ruan family. Therefore, Yuan didn't kill anyone from the Ruan family. Even for Lung Ying, Yuan had only given her 2 slaps. But now, Ruan Xianfeng had shed all pretense of cordiality and planned to deal with Zhuan. He even planned to take Zhuowen's life. So, why should Zhuowen have any scruples? As he spoke, Yuan turned his head and looked at Ruan Lingyu, who was imprisoned by Ruan Xianfeng. He smiled faintly and said, "Miss Lingyu, thank you for saving my life back then. I've already repaid your kindness just now, so I've already cut off all ties with the Ruan family. And now, your father and Lung Feng from the Ruan family are being aggressive. So, I can only offend you." Ruan Lingyu could only stand there motionlessly. When she heard Zhuowen's words, her beautiful eyes were filled with regret. She didn't expect that Zhuowen would fall out with the Ruan family in the end. However, Ruan Lingyu also knew that Ruan Xianfeng and Lung Feng had indeed gone overboard. It was normal for Zhuowen to fall out with them. What did you just say about me?" Lung Feng's eyes narrowed as veins popped out on his forehead. This damned brat actually dared to call him an old dog in front of everyone. How hateful. "You kept barking in my ear. Am I wrong to call you an old dog?" Zhuowen retorted. Good. Looks like you don't know how to write the word death. Let me teach you." Lung Feng roared angrily. The powerful aura of an 8-wheel emperor surged out. His right palm was covered in flames. He clenched his right hand, and the flames shot upward. They turned into a blazing sun that floated quietly above his head. Sun manipulation techniques read Sun Blazing Sun. As he spoke, Lung Feng stomped his foot. Terrifying flames gushed out from the blazing sun above his head, forming a powerful fire python. Sizzle! The fire python flicked its tongue and roared angrily. It pounced toward Zhuowen. In an instant, the surrounding temperature soared to a terrifying level. The murderous intent in Zhuowen's eyes seemed to materialize. Since Lung Feng really wanted to die, Zhuowen would no longer hold back. Sizzle! At the thought of this, Zhuowen stabbed the blood spear into the ground. He stood quietly on the spot and stared at the fire python that was pouncing toward him. What's wrong with Zhuowen? Why did he put down his weapon? Could it be that he knows that he's no match for Elder Leng, so he decided to give up? Zhuowen's strange behavior caused many people in the surroundings to reveal puzzled expressions. Could it be that Zhuowen had really given up on resisting? Looks like this little bastard has given up because he doesn't have any hope of defeating my father. However, it's a pity that letting this little bastard die like this is letting him off too easily. Lung Ying covered her face. Naturally, she also noticed the scene not far away. Her eyes revealed a pleased expression. Zhuowen had humiliated her, so she naturally hated Zhuowen to the core. She wanted nothing more than for Zhuowen to die a horrible death. However, when the fire python was a few meters away from Zhuowen, an invisible force swept out from between Zhuowen's brows. It seemed to form an invisible barrier in front of him. Boom! In front of this invisible barrier, the fire python's body stiffened. It was knocked dizzy and continuously shook its triangular head. Mental energy? Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes narrowed slightly. He immediately recognized the source of the invisible force in front of Zhuowen. Mental energy? This little bastard is actually an arcana master? Ruan Xuanfeng's voice was not soft. Everyone in the martial arts practice field could hear him. Lung Feng frowned slightly. His gaze became even colder as he said in a low voice, "So what if you have mental energy? You're only around 20 years old. You're already considered a genius if your mental energy can reach grade 3. It's impossible for you to be that strong. Die." As he spoke, Lung Feng waved his right hand. The blazing sun that was suspended above his head was thrown out. The huge blazing sun was like a real scorching sun that fell from the sky. The terrifying heat spread out, turning the entire martial arts practice field into a furnace. Many warriors could not stand the heat and retreated, distancing themselves from the center of the blazing sun. What a terrifying attack! The sun manipulation art's red sun blazing sun is Elder Lung's strongest attack. Yun is dead meat. Many of the Ruan family disciples in the martial arts practice field had lingering fear in their eyes. Lung Feng's sun manipulation art was well known in the Ruan family. It was extremely powerful. Do you really think that my mental energy is that weak? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. The mental energy in his Naiwen palace gushed out and formed a mental energy storm around him. Being in the middle of the mental energy storm, Zhuowen's long hair and robe fluttered. He looked like a god that had descended to the mortal world. What? Mental energy storm? This is a secret spirit skill that only grade 5 arcana masters can use. How did this kid learn it? Yuan Xuanfeng's eyes widened as he could not help but exclaim. How could it be? The young man in front of him was only around 20 years old. Could it be that his mental energy had already reached grade 5? Was this a joke? Boom! The huge blazing sun arrived in an instant and heavily slammed into the spiritual storm. Muffled, thunderous explosions resounded throughout the entire space. Countless explosions sounded like countless thunderbolts falling from the 9 heavens, continuously ringing out. Break for me! Zhuan slowly floated above the mental energy storm. With a swing of his right hand, the mental energy storm turned into rays of cold light and blasted towards the blazing sun. It was like a meat grinder that devoured the huge blazing sun. Following which, the crowd was shocked to see that the huge blazing sun was actually smashed into pieces and turned into countless specks of light. It broke just like that? Before the crowd could react, the blazing sun had been destroyed. Since when did Lung Feng's yang manipulation art become so weak? After the initial shock, the crowd regained their senses. They knew that it was not that Lung Feng's yang manipulation art was weak, but that the mental energy storm that surrounded Zhuan was too terrifying. Pucci. The moment the blazing sun was broken, Lung Feng suffered a backlash. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. However, his heart was already filled with shock. His strongest move was actually broken just like that. It didn't even last for a quarter of an hour. The moment Lung Feng was sent flying, Zhuan stepped on the mouth of the storm and shot towards Lung Feng at an extreme speed. Zhuan! How dare you! Yuan Xianfeng also noticed Zhuan's actions. He roared in anger and surged his yuan energy towards Zhuan. He knew that with the grudge between Zhuan and Lung Feng would probably die if Zhuan really attacked him. Lung Feng was the second strongest expert in the Ruan family and an ultimate Emperor Realm expert. He was the mainstay of the Ruan family. If Lung Feng died, the Ruan family would suffer a great loss. You want to stop me? I'm afraid you can't do it. Zhuan coldly snorted. With a thought, the countless mental energy storm behind him blocked in front of Yuan Xianfeng, causing the latter's body to freeze as if he had fallen into a swamp. In an instant, Yuan had shaken off Yuan Xianfeng. In an instant, Yuan was above Lung Feng. He swung the blood spear in his right hand and slammed it heavily on Lung Feng's chest. Lung Feng felt the blood in his body boil as he spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. When he reached the crater, Zhuowen's blood spear flashed coldly. With a poochie sound, 2 arms flew into the air, bringing with them bright red pillars of blood. How dare you break my arms, you son of a bitch? Within the deep pit, Lung Feng let out a miserable howl and began to curse Zhuowen without restraint. However, before he could finish, a foot stomped on his face, causing his face to sink into the ground. All he could do was let out a whimper. Lung Feng, ever since I, Zhuowen, entered your Ruan clan, you've been acting all high and mighty. Furthermore, you even impolitely used your consciousness to examine my entire body. You think that you're my senior, that you're stronger than me, that you're high and mighty, so you think that I, Zhuowen, can be humiliated as you please. However, I want to ask you a question now. You're being stepped on by me and your arms have been broken by me. Your arrogance before is a joke. You're nothing in front of me. Zhuowen said coldly. With a kick, Lung Feng was lifted into the air. Then, Yuan kicked Lung Feng's chest with his right foot. Poochie. Lung Feng spat out a mouthful of blood and flew into the air. Then, Zhuan threw the blood spear in his right hand. The blood spear streaked across the air and accurately pierced through the left side of Lung Feng's heart. Under the piercing force of the blood spear, Lung Feng's entire body was lifted up and shot backwards. Finally, he was nailed to a red wooden pillar. At this moment, Lung Feng stared at Zhuan with his eyes wide open. His eyes were filled with regret. He had never expected that the young man in front of him would be so terrifying and that he would be killed so easily. All these were things that Lung Feng had not expected. Right now, Lung Feng could only die with a heart full of regret. The entire martial arts practice field was eerily silent. No one said a word. Their eyes were fixed on Lung Feng's body that was nailed to the pillar. Their expressions froze. "Father!" A mournful shriek broke the silence of the martial arts arena. Lung Ying dashed towards Lung Feng, who was hanging on the pillar. She wailed mournfully, her voice filled with sorrow. Chapter 9:19. Mystic Soul Ice Butterfly. In the southeast of Yen City, there was an extremely large mansion. Streams of people flowed through the mansion, and it was heavily guarded. Guards in black armor patrolled the crisscrossing paths in the mansion. In front of this behemoth-like mansion, there was a huge stone tablet that was several tens of meters tall. It was like a small mountain, and on the stone tablet, there were 4 large golden words, Shaoyan Clan. This enormous mansion belonged to one of the 4 great families of Yen City, the Shaoyan Clan. At this moment, in a rather large secret chamber within the Shaoyan Clan mansion, the 2 guards guarding the secret chamber had shocked expressions on their faces. Inside the secret chamber, there were many jade tokens. On the front of these jade tokens, there was a row of names. These names were the life tokens of important figures in the Shaoyan family. If this life token was broken, it meant that the corresponding member of the jade token had died. At this moment, a jade pendant in the middle actually showed signs of shattering. In the end, it shattered into pieces. The name on the jade pendant was Shaoyan Pu, the second son of the Shaoyan clan. The second son's pendant shattered? Has the second son died? The 2 guards looked at each other and saw a trace of panic in each other's eyes. As the second son of the Shaoyan clan, Shaoyan Pu's status was rather high. Moreover, the ancestor of the Shaoyan clan was rather fond of him. Now that Shaoyan Pu's life pendant had shattered, it meant that Shaoyan Pu was really dead. Something big has happened. We have to report this to the patriarch. When they thought of this, the 2 guards hurried out of the secret room and walked towards the central hall of the Shaoyan clan. The patriarch of the Shaoyan clan basically lived in the central hall. Moreover, if something important happened in the Shaoyan clan, they would report it to the central hall. At this moment, 2 figures stood side by side in the huge central hall. One of the 2 figures was middle-aged. His sideburns were slightly white, but his eyes were exceptionally sharp and often flickered with light. The other figure was about 23 years old. His face was angular and was quite similar to the middle-aged man beside him. If the people of the Shaoyan family were to come in, they would definitely be able to recognize these 2 people. The middle-aged man was the head of the Shaoyan family, Shaoyan Zhua, and the young man was Shaoyan Zhua's eldest son, Shaoyan Qinglin. He was a genius on the Yen City's Flame God list and was also Shaoyan Pu's elder brother. "Father, wouldn't it be too early for second brother to go to the Ruan Manor to propose marriage? Ruan Lingyu is only a few months away from turning 18, and the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva in her body hasn't fully matured yet," Shaoyan Qinglin said calmly. Shaoyan Zhua shook his head and chuckled, "Qinglin, this is something you don't know, but this 10,000-year-old profound soul ice goo was something I found with great difficulty in the Northern Sea. I know its habits very well, and the phoenix feather has a strong catalytic effect on this goo's larvae. It has been a month since Pu gave the phoenix feather to Ruan Lingyu. I'm afraid that the 10,000-year black soul ice goo larva in Ruan Lingyu's body is about to break out of its cocoon and mature into a profound soul ice butterfly. Such a meta-beast is extremely precious and rare, and it must not be leaked. Otherwise, not only will the 3 great clans cast covetous glances at it, even the 5 great super-factions of Yen City may interfere. Therefore, we must bring Ruan Lingyu into the mansion in advance." Shaoyan Qinglin nodded. His eyes flashed as he asked, "Father, is the profound soul ice butterfly really that powerful? Does it have the strength of the Xuanzuan realm from birth?" Of course, the profound soul ice butterfly has inherited a trace of the bloodline of a powerful ancient sacred beast. It is said that it has the potential to become a Fey emperor. As long as we can find a powerful cold qi, the profound soul ice butterfly can use the cold qi to transform into a Fey emperor. It is extremely terrifying. At this point, Shaoyan Zhua's eyes shone with a terrifying light. In their Yen City, Only the Flame Emperor was at the Emperor realm. It was because of this that the imperial family was the undisputed #1 force in Yen City. If their Shaoyan clan could nurture a Fey Emperor, they would surpass the other 4 superforces and be on the same level as the imperial family. It can transform into a Fey Emperor? This profound soul ice butterfly is so terrifying? Xiaoyan Qinglin was shocked. What kind of existence was a Fey Emperor? It was the emperor of all Fey Emperors. It was an existence even more terrifying than a human great emperor. After all, metabeasts were born much more powerful than humans. If they could become an emperor, their strength would definitely surpass great emperors of the same level. However, compared to humans, it was much more difficult for metabeasts to cultivate into a great emperor. Once a Fey Emperor appeared, it would definitely be a terrifying existence that could crush many human great emperors. Moreover, the profound soul ice butterfly was born in the Xuanzuan realm. The strength it can unleash is even more terrifying than ordinary Xuanzuan realm experts. I'm afraid that even I won't be able to defeat a newborn profound soul ice butterfly easily, Xiaoyan's was said faintly. What? Father, you are a peak expert in the Xuanzuan realm. The profound soul ice butterfly was born in the early Xuanzuan realm. You can't even defeat it? Xiaoyan Qinglin asked in surprise. Xiaoyan's was shook his head and continued, don't underestimate the profound soul ice butterfly. After all, it has the bloodline of an ancient sacred beast. Even in the early Xuanzuan realm, its strength is extremely terrifying. Therefore, this profound soul ice butterfly must be obtained by us. Then I am looking forward to that profound soul ice butterfly. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes flickered with anticipation. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of hurried footsteps came from outside the central hall. Xiaoyan Zhua and Xiaoyan Qinglin, who were talking in the hall, frowned slightly. Their faces were slightly unsightly. At this moment, outside the hall, 2 guards in black armor hurriedly walked in. The 2 guards were at a loss, and their faces were full of panic. What's the matter? Xiaoyan's was said unhappily. Greetings, Master and eldest young master. Something bad has happened. Second young master's life tablet has been broken. The 2 guards hurriedly knelt on the ground and said with trembling bodies. Xiaoyan Zhua and Xiaoyan Qinglin's faces stiffened, and then their eyes widened. Xiaoyan Qinglin stared at the kneeling guards and shouted, What did you say? My second brother's life tablet has been broken? It's absolutely true. The 2 of us are the guards of the secret pavilion. We saw second young master's life tablet break in front of us with our own eyes. I'm afraid second young master has met with misfortune. The 2 guards didn't dare to look at Xiaoyan Zhua and Xiaoyan Qinglin and said with trembling voices, Shut up. I'll go take a look at the secret pavilion first. If you're lying, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Xiaoyan Qinglin glanced at the 2 guards indifferently, then took a step forward and turned into a blur as he left the hall. Xiaoyan's eyes were gloomy as he followed Xiaoyan Qinglin, leaving the 2 guards kneeling there, not daring to get up. After a while, Xiaoyan Qinglin and Xiaoyan's were returned to the hall. Their eyes were scarlet red, and monstrous flames of anger were emitted from their bodies. Who is it? Who dares to kill my Xiaoyan family's people? Xiaoyan's were roared in a low voice. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes were gloomy as he said to Xiaoyan Zhua, Father, today, second young master went to the Ruan family to propose marriage, but now he's dead. I'm afraid this matter is related to the Ruan family. I'll go take a look at the Ruan family first. Whether or not the Ruan family did it, today I'll destroy the Ruan family and not leave a single one alive. Qinglin, you go to the Ruan family first. Later, I'll bring the elders of the family to the Ruan family. I'll make the Ruan family pay the price in blood. Xiaoyan's was snorted coldly and walked into the depths of the hall. Clearly, he was preparing to gather the experts of the family and head to the Ruan family. Xiaoyan Qinglin nodded and took a step forward, leaving the hall and heading towards the Ruan family. The Ruan family was really rebellious. They dared to kill someone from the Xiaoyan family, and the one who died was Xiaoyan Qinglin's own brother. You dare to kill Leng Feng? You bastard! Did you come to my Ruan manor to cause trouble today? Looking at Lung Feng nailed to the pillar, Ruan Xianfeng almost went crazy. He roared at the sky, and a terrifying energy surged out, causing the spiritual storm around him to collapse. Boom! Ruan Xianfeng landed on the ground. Terrifying qi energy floated up to form a funnel-shaped cyclone. His eyes were bloodshot. This Zhuan had guts. He actually dared to kill an elder of the Ruan family, Lung Feng. Zhuan glanced indifferently at Ruan Xianfeng, who was walking over, and a cold smile appeared on his face. He said, "You said that I came to cause trouble in the Ruan family? You really have the face to say that? Who was the one who was aggressive in the beginning? Who allowed Xiaoyan-pu to kill me? Or is it that if Xiaoyan-pu wanted to kill me, I should just stand there and let him kill me? Master Ruan, are you sure there's nothing wrong with your head?" Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes were gloomy. This Zhuoan in front of him was getting more and more presumptuous. He actually dared to question him, and even said it in front of the Ruan family's disciples. "It seems that you're determined to die. Then don't blame me. You killed Xiaoyan-pu, so I can only kill you and take your corpse to the Xiaoyan family to ask for forgiveness." Ruan Xianfeng snorted coldly. He took a step forward and rushed toward Zhuan. The terrifying aura of the ultimate emperor realm gushed out, and his palms were covered with blazing flames. Then Ruan Xianfeng raised his hands, and two huge blazing suns appeared above his head. Sun manipulation technique, two blazing suns. Two blazing suns gradually appeared. Ruan Xianfeng then tossed the two blazing suns toward Zhuowen, intending to completely annihilate the latter. "The one who's courting death is not me, but you. Come out, infinite sword formation." An indifferent voice sounded. Zhuan flicked his finger, and a sword ray flew out, forming a huge sword formation in front of him. This sword formation was made up of nearly 1,000 sword-shaped spirit treasures, and the aura it emitted was extremely terrifying. Ruan Xuanfeng's body stiffened. He stared at the sword formation around Zhuan and exclaimed, "Fifth rank origin formation? Weeping blood style." Chapter 920. Xiaoyan Qinglin Rumble. Countless rays of blood-red light were like the sharpest swords in the world. When the two huge suns were enveloped by the blood-red light, the golden sunlight was covered by the blood-red light. The entire space was filled with blood-red light as if they were in a world of blood. "Break!" Zhuowen's cold voice gradually rang out. Then, the two blazing suns with shocking might couldn't hold on for long at all. They actually collapsed inch by inch, turning into countless specks of light that dissipated in this space. Greater infinite sword formation, yin-yang form. Zhuowen's cold voice rang out again after the two blazing suns were destroyed. He formed a sword seal with his right hand, and the greater infinite sword formation in the sky split into yin and yang. A taiji yin-yang pattern floated above the sword formation and rotated at high speed. When the yin-yang sword formation appeared, it turned into a black and white ray of light that swept towards Ruan Xianfeng below. The yin-yang will was formed, giving off a mysterious aura. Ruan Xuanfeng's face changed drastically, and his gaze was extremely gloomy. A grade 5 mental energy was already terrifying enough. With a grade 5 yuan array, Ruan Xianfeng knew that Zhuan was not afraid of a 9 wheels ultimate emperor. Phoenix Sun Dawn. With a low growl, Ruan Xianfeng poured out all the primary energy in his body. Waves of blazing fire breath emanated from the surface of his body. The surging fire breath gushed out and converged into a fire phoenix of 100 feet behind him. A clear and melodious phoenix cry rang out as the fire phoenix soared into the sky. It fearlessly welcomed the yin-yang sword formation that was sweeping down. Rumble. When the two forces collided, an endless sea of fire appeared in the sky. The sea of fire enveloped the yin-yang sword formation, as if it wanted to destroy it completely. Unfortunately, the yin-yang sword formation was extremely powerful, and the yin-yang pattern on its body was even more powerful. The yin-yang force that it emitted as it rotated at high speed blocked the terrifying sea of fire. Looking at the terrifying sea of fire in the sky and the yin-yang pattern that was rotating at high speed, everyone in the martial arts practice field quietened down. Their eyes were filled with shock. Their Ruan family patriarch, Ruan Xianfeng, had personally taken action, but he was still unable to take down the mysterious youth who had appeared in the Ruan family. Everyone could not help but speculate about the background of this person. After all, the strength that this person had displayed was not weaker than those monstrous geniuses on the Yen City Flame God list. Father, don't make any more mistakes. Young Master Zhua has 5th-level spiritual force, and his own strength is even more terrifying. His background is definitely no weaker than the Xiaoyan family. If you continue to deal with him, the gains will not make up for the losses. Ruan Lingyu said somewhat anxiously. Anyone with a discerning eye could see the various methods Yuan had used, as well as his terrifying strength. Who would believe that such a genius was a rogue cultivator? He definitely had the support of a colossus behind him. If Ruan Lingyu could think of it, so could Ruan Xianfeng. In fact, when he saw Zhuowen's level 5 mental strength, he already felt that something was wrong. However, Leng Feng's death was too much of a shock to him, which was why he had acted impulsively. As soon as he acted, he immediately regretted it. This one was actually so strong, which greatly exceeded his expectations. I've already offended him. Even if I let him go now, the power behind him will definitely not let me off easily. In addition, Xiaoyan Pu died in my Ruan family, so the Xiaoyan family will not let the Ruan family go. The only way now is to capture this boy and hand him over to the Xiaoyan family. Maybe we can fight for a chance of survival. Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes flickered as he thought of 1,000 things. Soon, he decided that if the Ruan family wanted to survive, the safest way was to capture Zhuowen and hand him over to the Xiaoyan family. Lingyu, you don't have to plead for this boy. This boy must die today. Only by capturing this boy and handing him over to the Xiaoyan family can our Ruan family continue to survive. Moreover, even if this boy has a power behind him, how can it be compared to the Xiaoyan family? Ruan Xianfeng said to Ruan Lingyu. He formed a seal with both hands, and the fire phoenix in the void expanded a little. The surrounding sea of fire became even more scorching and terrifying, suppressing the yin-yang sword formation. Little bastard, go to hell. As long as you die, our Ruan family can continue to survive. Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes were cold as he muttered to himself. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. His right sword finger pointed between his eyebrows, and an even more terrifying mental strength gushed out. Then, the yin-yang sword formation that was suppressed turned into streaks of cold light again. Then, above the void, they intertwined and formed a huge and terrifying dome. Kill me? Ruan Xianfeng, you don't have the right. With that, Yuan pressed down with his right hand, and his indifferent voice sounded, Greater Infinite Sword Formation, Heaven's Bane. Destroy. Countless sword lights emitted a terrifying cold light. The dome formed by the countless sword lights crushed downward. A terrifying heavenly might flowed out, as if the entire sky was about to collapse. Boom. Soon after, everyone was shocked to find that the fire phoenix in the endless sea of fire was actually crouching on the ground under the pressure of this terrifying dome. The terrifying sea of fire around it was directly annihilated into nothingness. A mournful phoenix cry sounded. The fire phoenix's ending was not much better than the surrounding sea of fire. Under the crushing force of the dome, it was annihilated into countless pieces. Ruan Xianfeng did not even have time to react before he was affected by the heavenly power. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. In the end, he stomped his foot on the ground, causing countless cracks to appear on the ground. He barely managed to stop himself. How is this possible? I've lost? At this moment, Ruan Xuanfeng's hands were trembling violently. The web between his thumb and forefinger was bleeding as he screamed. You only have yourself to blame. A figure arrived in an instant, and then a palm landed heavily on Ruan Xuanfeng's chest. The latter spat out another mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Then, the tip of a blood spear stopped quietly as he roared. The sharp cold light made Ruan Xuanfeng's hair stand on end. Yuan, what are you trying to do? You should know that my daughter, Lingyu, saved your life. Are you trying to be ungrateful and kill me? Ruan Xianfeng was finally frightened. He stared at the blood spear and said nervously, "But..." The crowd around the martial arts practice field was in an uproar. No one expected that their Ruan family's patriarch, Ruan Xianfeng, would be defeated by a young man in his 20s. Such a fact shocked everyone's eyes, and they could not help but be stunned. Ruan Xianfeng, you're really afraid of death. Didn't I say it before? I've already expelled the cold from Miss Lingyu's body. Then, I have nothing to do with your Ruan family. Now, you're using this matter to say that I'm ungrateful. Do you really have the right to say that? Zhuan's gaze was cold and ruthless. Ruan Xuanfeng's style and behavior were getting more and more disgusting to him. He tightened his right hand, and the tip of the blood spear was almost on Ruan Xuanfeng's neck, causing traces of blood to appear on the skin of his neck. Ruan Xianfeng was so frightened that he did not dare to speak anymore. Young Master Zhua, can you spare my father's life? Although his previous actions were too extreme, he was doing it for the good of the Ruan family. Ruan Lingyu's voice suddenly sounded, causing Zhua Wen's right hand to stiffen. Turning his head slightly, Zhua Wen saw that Ruan Lingyu's face was currently covered in tears. Her exquisite face appeared somewhat haggard. Zhua Wen's eyes flickered. He sighed lightly and said, "Since Miss Lingyu is pleading for mercy, I'll spare your worthless life. However, you've been targeting me in every way before. It's not right if you don't pay a price." As he spoke, Zhuan waved his right hand. The blood spear turned into a bloody light and slashed across Ruan Xuanfeng's right arm. Then, a shrill scream was heard. Ruan Xianfeng held his broken right arm with a hideous expression. After cutting off Ruan Xuanfeng's arm, Zhuan came to Ruan Lingyu's side. He exerted force from his right palm and instantly released the shackles on Ruan Lingyu's body. He said, "Miss Lingyu, now that there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." As he spoke, Zhuan left the Ruan family with the white-brow heavenly master. Ruan Lingyu looked at the departing figure and suddenly felt a sense of loss in her heart. However, she also knew that the Ruan family had gone too far. It was already good enough that Zhuan didn't kill her father, Ruan Xianfeng. Therefore, she didn't ask too much of Zhuan. At this moment, Ruan Xianfeng had already stopped the wound on his right arm. He stood up with a gloomy expression. He didn't expect that he would end up like this. "Father, are you all right?" Ruan Lingyu came to Ruan Xuanfeng's side and asked softly. "I'm fine, Lingyu. It seems that I was wrong. If I had listened to you before, perhaps things wouldn't be like this now. This Zhuan isn't simple. I wonder where he came from?" Ruan Xianfeng was slightly dispirited at this moment. His face seemed to have aged a little. He was now regretting that he had to deal with Zhuan. If only he had let Zhuan leave, the Ruan family wouldn't have suffered any losses. Medicine for regret couldn't be bought. Even if Ruan Xianfeng was extremely regretful, it was useless. After all, things had already happened and there was no turning back. At this moment, a figure cut across the sky and arrived in the sky above the Ruan family. This person was wearing a green robe. His long hair was draped over his shoulders. His face was angular and his eyes revealed a sharp light. In particular, this person's aura was very vast. It was much more powerful than Ruan Xuanfeng's. Ruan Xianfeng, Ruan Lingyu, and the others also noticed the sudden arrival of this uninvited guest. Therefore, they all looked up at this person. Shaoyan Qinglin? After seeing this person's face, Ruan Xuanfeng's pupils shrank. He couldn't help but exclaim out loud. His face turned ugly. He didn't expect the people from the Shaoyan family to arrive so quickly. Moreover, it was the #1 expert of the younger generation, Shaoyan Qinglin. Shaoyan Qinglin slowly descended on the martial arts practice field. Immediately, his gaze gathered on the dozen or so corpses not far from the martial arts practice field. His gaze became extremely gloomy because these dozen or so figures were all warriors from the Shaoyan family. Looking around, Shaoyan Qinglin quickly found Shaoyan Pu's corpse in another place. He stomped his foot and teleported in front of Shaoyan Pu. His right hand reached out to the latter's neck, then he slowly withdrew his right hand. Chapter 921. The Ruan family's sorrow. Who dares to kill a member of my Shaoyan family? Who killed my second brother, Shaoyan Pu? A terrifying energy gushed out from Shaoyan Qinglin's body and the ground of the martial arts practice field cracked open. Countless cracks spread out in all directions and covered the entire martial arts practice field. The Ruan family disciples who were standing in the martial arts practice field all retreated to the edge of the martial arts practice field. What terrifying strength! The Ruan family disciples who had retreated to the edge of the martial arts practice field were all shocked. This Xiaoyan Qinglin was too terrifying. Just his aura alone had such terrifying power. It was too terrifying. Ruan Xianfeng and Ruan Lingyu retreated to the edge of the martial arts practice field. His eyes were extremely gloomy and his heart sank to the bottom. This Xiaoyan Qinglin came at such a coincidence. He actually came after Zhuan left. The Ruan family would not be able to clear their name even if they jumped into the Yellow River. A cold gaze focused on Ruan Xianfeng, causing the latter to shiver uncontrollably. Ruan Xianfeng raised his head slightly and instantly met Xiaoyan Qinglin's crimson eyes. He was a little flustered. Boom! Xiaoyan Qinglin stomped his feet on the ground and a terrifying power spread out, causing the ground to crack open. Then, he instantly appeared in front of Ruan Xianfeng and coldly said, "Ruan family head, what exactly is going on?" "Young Master Qinglin, this has nothing to do with our Ruan family. Your second brother and the others were not killed by our Ruan family. They were killed by a young man named Zhu. Even if our Ruan family has the guts, we don't have the strength." Ruan Xianfeng said earnestly. Xiaoyan Qinglin narrowed his eyes and stared at Ruan Xuanfeng's severed right arm. He lightly said, "Your right arm was also severed by Zhuan?" "That Zhuan is very strong. Our Ruan family's elder Ling Feng was also killed by him. Even I was no match for him and lost an arm." Ruan Xianfeng hurriedly explained with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. He knew that if he revealed everything about Zhuan, perhaps Xiaoyan Qinglin would not blame the Ruan family. "That Zhuan is younger than me, but he was able to chop off your arm?" Xiaoyan Qinglin narrowed his eyes and felt a little surprised. Since Zhuan was able to cut off Ruan Xuanfeng's arm, his strength should be comparable to the geniuses on the Flame God list. However, he had never heard of this person. Ruan Xuanfeng's cultivation had reached the early stage of the ultimate Nine Wheels Emperor realm. Although he was not as good as Xiaoyan Qinglin, being able to cut off an arm was not something an ordinary genius could do. "What's Zhuowen's background?" Xiaoyan Qinglin asked. This matter concerned the life and death of the Ruan clan, so Ruan Xianfeng naturally didn't dare to not answer in detail. Thus, he recounted how Ruan Lingyu saved Zhuowen until Zhuowen arrived at Yen City to expel the cold qi from Ruan Lingyu's body. The more Xiaoyan Qinglin listened, the colder his eyes became. He said coldly, "According to what you said, Yin is not from Yen City and his origins are unknown. However, this person was saved by someone from your Ruan clan, and my second brother and the others were killed by Zhuan. Are you still saying that this matter has nothing to do with your Ruan clan?" Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes froze when he heard this. He secretly cursed himself for being stupid. It was Zhuan who killed Xiaoyan Pu and the others, but Zhuan was saved by someone from the Ruan clan. Speaking of which, the deaths of Xiaoyan Pu and the others were related to the Ruan clan. According to what you said, Zhuowen and Miss Ruan have a good relationship, so Miss Ruan must know where Zhuowen is, right? As he spoke, Xiaoyan Qinglin took a step forward and rushed toward Ruan Lingyu. A terrifying energy surged out and formed countless cyclones around his body. "Young Master Qinglin, this matter has nothing to do with my daughter." Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward and blocked in front of Ruan Lingyu. His left palm emitted a terrifying energy, wanting to completely block Xiaoyan Qinglin. "Get out of my way!" Xiaoyan Qinglin's aura was like a rainbow. He roared and also struck out with his palm, which collided with Ruan Xuanfeng's left palm. Instantly, a terrifying hurricane swept out between the two. Ruan Xianfeng directly spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward, crashing into the ground dozens of meters away. "Master!" As soon as Ruan Xianfeng fell to the ground, the disciples of the Ruan clan gathered around Ruan Xianfeng and glared at Xiaoyan Qinglin. At this moment, Xiaoyan Qinglin had already arrived in front of Ruan Lingyu. He clenched his right hand and formed a sword with his left hand, pointing at Ruan Lingyu's lower abdomen. A green energy entered Ruan Lingyu's dantian. After a while, Xiaoyan Qinglin's face turned slightly ugly. He whispered, "It was really expelled. The 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva was also taken out by that guy. This bastard." Xiaoyan Qinglin knew that the 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva was about to break out of its cocoon and transform into a butterfly in Ruan Lingyu's body. Now, because of Zhuowen, not only did he not get the butterfly, but he also lost the 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva. Not to mention the butterfly, the 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva was also an extremely precious treasure. It was something that his father, Xiaoyan Zhua, had found by chance in the depths of the North Sea. Now, it had been taken away by Zhuowen. How could Xiaoyan Qinglin not be angry? Ruan Lingyu had no cultivation, so naturally, she could not escape from Xiaoyan Qinglin's control. However, she had heard everything that Xiaoyan Qinglin had said just now. That 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva was really planted in my body by your Xiaoyan clan? Ruan Lingyu said somewhat angrily. Xiaoyan Qinglin snorted coldly and asked Ruan Lingyu indifferently, "Tell me, where is Jun? Not only did this guy kill a disciple of my Xiaoyan clan, but he also took out the 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva from your body without permission. This guy deserves to die." Xiaoyan Qinglin's words undoubtedly admitted that the 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva was indeed planted by his Xiaoyan clan. Now that the 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva had been taken away, Xiaoyan Qinglin had no need to hide it. Ruan Xianfeng and the others also heard Xiaoyan Qinglin's words and were all shocked. They now understood that Zhuowen's words were all true. The 10,000-year dark soul ice parasite larva was indeed planted by the Xiaoyan clan. Moreover, Xiaoyan Pu came to propose marriage with ill intentions. Thinking of this, the corner of Ruan Xuanfeng's mouth twitched. He did not expect that the Xiaoyan clan had ill intentions towards Ruan Lingyu from the beginning. As her father, he actually wanted to push Ruan Lingyu into the fire pit. What was even more laughable was that he even suspected that Zhuowen, who sincerely helped Ruan Lingyu, had ill intentions. Moreover, Ruan Xianfeng helped the wicked Xiaoyan Pu to deal with Zhuowen and drove away a person who sincerely wanted to help the Ruan clan. Now that Ruan Xianfeng thought about it, he felt how stupid he was at that time. Since Zhuowen was so powerful, then the white-brow heavenly master, who followed Zhuowen like a bodyguard, was probably not too bad either. If they had treated Zhuowen well back then, perhaps Zhuowen might have helped the Ruan clan on account of Ruan Lingyu saving his life. However, it was useless to regret now. Ruan Xianfeng knew that all the mistakes had been made and could no longer be undone. "Tell me where Zhuowen is." Xiaoyan Qinglin raised Ruan Lingyu with his right hand and said indifferently. On the other hand, Ruan Lingyu's face was extremely red from being raised by Xiaoyan Qinglin, and she almost fainted. However, she stared at Xiaoyan Qinglin without saying a word. Ruan Xianfeng and the other Ruan clan disciples all stared angrily at Xiaoyan Qinglin. Ruan Lingyu was extremely popular in the Ruan clan and was even the goddess in the hearts of many Ruan clan disciples. However, their goddess was being treated so crudely by Xiaoyan Qinglin. How could they not be angry? "You bunch of trash dare to look at me like that? You're courting death." Xiaoyan Qinglin waved his other hand and spat out origin energy. The Ruan clan disciple standing at the front instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist under the force of the palm. "Miss Ruan, my patience is extremely limited. From now on, I will kill a Ruan clan disciple every 10 breaths until you tell me where Zhuowen is." As he spoke, Xiaoyan Qinglin put Ruan Lingyu down and his cold gaze focused on the Ruan clan disciples at the side of the martial arts field. Ruan Lingyu's pretty face was gloomy. She didn't even know where Zhuowen was. Even if she knew, with Ruan Lingyu's character, it was unlikely that she would betray Zhuowen and tell him where he was. 10 breaths have passed. "Miss Ruan, are you still not going to tell me?" Xiaoyan Qinglin glanced at Ruan Lingyu indifferently and saw that her pretty face was pale and her teeth were tightly clenched. She didn't say a single word. He snorted coldly and stomped his foot, arriving beside a Ruan clan disciple. His right hand formed into a claw and he spat out origin energy. The Ruan clan disciple didn't even have time to make a sound and exploded into a cloud of blood mist. "Xiaoyan Qinglin, don't go too far. Ruan Lingyu was so angry that her delicate body trembled. This Xiaoyan Qinglin was too overbearing and cruel. If she didn't tell him where Zhuan was, he actually planned to kill all the Ruan clan disciples one by one. Still not speaking? Next one. Xiaoyan Qinglin stomped his foot and arrived at another Ruan clan disciple. The Ruan clan disciple wanted to resist, but unfortunately, he was no match for Xiaoyan Qinglin. He was killed by Xiaoyan Qinglin with a single palm strike and turned into a cloud of blood mist. Another person died at the hands of Xiaoyan Qinglin. Xiaoyan Qinglin was expressionless as if he had just killed an ant and didn't care about it at all. The Ruan clan disciples clenched their fists and the veins on their foreheads popped out. They were angry but didn't dare to say anything. Although they saw their companions being killed by Xiaoyan Qinglin, they were more afraid in their hearts. Xiaoyan Qinglin was the monstrous genius of the Xiaoyan clan. Even the Ruan clan leader was defeated by him in one move. How could they be a match for him? A series of screams resounded. At this moment, the Ruan clan seemed to have turned into a Jura hell. The screams soared into the sky and attracted the attention of many warriors outside the Ruan clan. Swoosh, swoosh. One figure after another entered the Ruan clan's roof and focused on the martial arts arena. Then, there was the sound of people inhaling cold air. At this moment, the Ruan clan's martial arts arena had turned into a bloodbath. There were corpses lying on the ground with blood flowing out. Some sharp-eyed warriors even noticed that there were people from the Xiaoyan clan among the corpses. Moreover, the second son of the Xiaoyan clan, Xiaoyan Pu, was among them. Chapter 9:22. Purple Lightning Blade. Screams of agony could be heard. Immediately, the warriors who had gathered around the Ruan clan were shocked to see a young man ruthlessly slaughtering the Ruan clan disciples in the training field. Moreover, every time this person walked past someone, he would turn his head to look at Ruan Lingyu, as if he was questioning her. Isn't that Xiaoyan Qinglin from the Xiaoyan aristocratic family? Xiaoyan Pu died in the Ruan family's martial arts practice field. He must be here for revenge. Seeing Xiaoyan Qinglin's ruthless methods, the surrounding warriors all felt a chill in their hearts. They really didn't know what was wrong with the Ruan family. They actually dared to provoke the Xiaoyan family. Wasn't this just courting death? They were courting death. However, as Xiaoyan Qinglin's questioning grew louder, the warriors also heard the name Zhuan. From Xiaoyan Qinglin's questioning, it seemed that the young man named Zhuan was the initiator. At this moment, the martial arts practice field was littered with corpses. 1/3 of the Ruan family disciples had been killed by Xiaoyan Qinglin. Fresh blood dyed the cold ground red. Xiaoyan Qinglin, that's enough. Do you want to kill all the Ruan family disciples? Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes were red as he shouted angrily. The Ruan family disciples in the martial arts practice field were the future hope of the Ruan family. Now, 1/3 of them had been killed in front of their eyes. How could Ruan Xianfeng tolerate this? Did I say you could speak? A small family like yours is just an ant to the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. The Xiaoyan aristocratic family can destroy your Ruan family with a flick of a finger. Now, you dare to bark in front of me? You're courting death. Xiaoyan Qinglin snorted coldly. He stomped his foot and instantly appeared in front of Ruan Xianfeng. He waved his right fist and origin energy gushed out, condensing an endless amount of astral wind and blasting it towards Ruan Xianfeng. Ruan Xuanfeng's expression changed slightly. He ignored the injuries in his body and raised both his hands. A blazing aura of fire spread out and 2 huge blazing suns rose above his head. Boom! The 2 blazing suns rose to the highest point and turned into a sunset. Their target was Xiaoyan Qinglin. Petty tricks. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes were filled with disdain as he watched the 2 blazing suns fly over. Then, he flipped his right hand and strands of violet lightning surged out from his palm. They transformed into a violet blade that was over 3 meters long. Purple lightning blade, break for me! Shouted Xiaoyan Qinglin. He threw out his saber, which was covered with purple lightning. Endless purple lightning filled the sky. It was as if a terrifying Xian thunder had descended from the 9 heavens, covering the entire sky. Gotcha! When the purple lightning broadsword landed on the two blazing suns, the entire space fell silent. After a long period of silence, a crisp cracking sound was heard. Ruan Xianfeng was shocked to find that his two blazing suns had completely collapsed under the attack of the purple lightning broadsword. Puchi! Ruan Xianfeng spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated repeatedly. At the same time, Xiaoyan Qinglin had already arrived before Ruan Xianfeng. His right fist blasted out and smashed into Ruan Xuanfeng's chest. Under the tremendous force, Ruan Xianfeng was sent flying and collided with a wooden pillar. Bang! The wooden pillar that required two people to wrap their arms around was broken. Ruan Xianfeng struggled to get up from the ruins of the wooden pillar. He spat out another mouthful of blood. His whole body was trembling and he could not stand steadily. He knelt on one knee and stared at Xiaoyan Qinglin in horror. Half a step into the Xuanzuan realm? You've broken through? Ruan Xianfeng asked in a low voice. Xiaoyan Qinglin showed a hint of disdain. He raised his chin and said condescendingly, "Yes, I tried to break through to the Xuanzuan realm a month ago. Although I failed, my cultivation has reached the half a step into the Xuanzuan realm. Your Ruan family is too weak. I alone can slaughter your entire Ruan family." Xiaoyan Qinglin looked at Ruan Lingyu and said indifferently, "Miss Ruan, are you still not going to tell me? I've already killed 1/3 of your Ruan family disciples. Or do you think I haven't killed enough and need to kill more people before you're willing to tell me the truth?" Ruan Lingyu's delicate body trembled. She bit her lower lip and said hoarsely, "Xiaoyan Qinglin, that's enough. To tell you the truth, I don't know where young Master Zhuar is. We were separated from him in the dense forest. Even if you kill everyone in my Ruan family, I won't know." Xiaoyan Qinglin looked at Ruan Lingyu. She did not look like she was lying. He nodded and said, "It seems that Miss Ruan is not lying. In that case, your Ruan family has no value. Just destroy it." Xiaoyan Qinglin's body emitted a powerful and terrifying energy. He turned into a shadow and rushed toward the rest of the Ruan family disciples in the martial arts practice field. Miserable cries continuously resounded in the martial practice field. Xiaoyan Qinglin did not hold back at all. With a single palm strike, several people died. Blood splattered, and the pungent smell of blood permeated the surroundings of the martial practice field. So cruel. Seeing Xiaoyan Qinglin's methods, the cultivators who were watching from afar felt a chill in their hearts. Xiaoyan Qinglin's methods were cruel and merciless. This person could not be easily offended. Once offended, there would be devastating revenge, just like the Ruan family. After a while, the screams in the martial arts practice field finally stopped. The Ruan family disciples had been completely killed by Xiaoyan Qinglin. Blood dyed the martial arts practice field red and the pungent smell of blood was extremely pungent. Ruan Xianfeng knelt on the ground. His face was extremely pale. His Ruan family was completely finished. The Ruan family disciples who carried the hope of the next generation of the Ruan family were all killed by Xiaoyan Qinglin. Perhaps the Ruan family only suffered a great loss when Leng Feng died. However, now that all the Ruan family disciples were killed, the Ruan family had no hope. There was no hope for them to rise again. Slowly standing up, Xiaoyan Qinglin stared at Ruan Lingyu who was not far away. Seeing the latter's lifeless eyes and not saying a word, he knew that Ruan Lingyu might not know the whereabouts of Zhuan. Although you don't know the whereabouts of Zhuan, you did save Zhuan. I don't believe that Zhuan will ignore you when he knows that you are in my hands. As he spoke, Xiaoyan Qinglin took a step forward and arrived in front of Ruan Lingyu. With a wave of his right hand, he lifted her up and soared into the sky. "Zhuan, get the hell out here. Ruan Lingyu is in my hands right now. If you don't want her to die, get the hell out here right now. Otherwise, I'll kill this beauty in midair." Xiaoyan Qinglin's voice was like thunder from the ninth heaven. It rolled in the air and filled the entire sky. In an instant, all the practitioners in Yen City lifted their heads to look at the sky. Astonishment filled their eyes when they saw Xiaoyan Qinglin and Ruan Lingyu floating in the air. Isn't that Xiaoyan Qinglin from the Xiaoyan family? What is he doing now? The one in his hand seems to be Ruan Lingyu from the Ruan family? Who is Zhuan? Why did this Xiaoyan Qinglin threaten to look for Zhuowen? Xiaoyan Qinglin's voice was not soft, and all the practitioners in Yen City heard it clearly. An uproar broke out in Yen City. They were all discussing who exactly Zhuowen was for Xiaoyan Qinglin to call him out by name. Zhuowen? Xiaoyan Qinglin is actually looking for Zhuowen. I will go over and take a look. In a remote corner of Yen City, a figure shrouded in black fog slowly raised his head. His gaze gathered on Xiaoyan Qinglin, who was high up in the sky in the distance. With a cruel laugh, he turned into a black shadow and flew over. In another restaurant in Yen City, a group of Clear Void Valley disciples in green and white robes clustered around Dui Qingfeng as they drank and chatted merrily. Xiaoyan Qinglin's voice rang out at this moment, causing the expressions of the Clear Void Valley disciples to stiffen. Their gazes were focused on Xiaoyan Qinglin in the distant sky. What is this Xiaoyan Qinglin up to? And who is that Zhuowen? Why is this guy asking Zhuowen to come out? The other Clear Void Valley disciples who did not know the truth all revealed puzzled expressions. They were clearly unfamiliar with the Zhuowen that Xiaoyan Qinglin spoke of. After all, Xiaoyan Qinglin was considered an influential figure in Yen City. Generally speaking, the other party who challenged him should also be an influential figure in Yen City. However, the name Zhuowen was so unfamiliar that they had never heard of it before. Surrounded by numerous disciples, Zui Qingfeng's expression changed slightly. The name Zhuowen may be unfamiliar to others, but he was all too familiar with it. It was so familiar that it caused him to grit his teeth. Last time, he had been put into an extremely sorry state by that Zhuowen and had lost quite a bit of face in front of his juniors. Juniors! I still have some matters to attend to, so I will not stay any longer. Goodbye. Zui Qingfeng cupped his hands and bowed to the other disciples at the table. With a wave of his sleeve, he turned into a gust of wind and disappeared from the restaurant. This caused the other disciples to look at each other in confusion. They were all somewhat baffled. On a spacious street, Yun slowly walked, his gaze sweeping over the surrounding stalls. White-brow heavenly sovereigns silently followed beside Zhuowen. His expression was grave and stern, like a loyal bodyguard. He did not leave Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen, get out here. Wan Lingyu is now in my hands. If you don't want her to die, get out here right now. Otherwise, I will kill this beauty in midair. Xiaoyan Qinglin's words rang in Zhuowen's ears. Then, Zhuowen's pupils shrank slightly. He turned his head slightly and immediately saw a young man standing proudly in the void in the distance. In the young man's hands was a woman who was constantly struggling. This woman was the Ruan Lingyu of the Ruan clan. This guy is courting death. Zhuowen's eyes emitted a substantial killing intent. Then, Zhuowen stomped his foot and disappeared on the spot. At this moment, Xiaoyan Qinglin was hovering in midair with Ruan Lingyu in his right hand. Seeing that Zhuowen had yet to appear, the killing intent in his eyes grew even stronger. He sneered at Ruan Lingyu and said, "That Tun is not as loyal as you said. I have already threatened to kill you, but that bastard did not appear at all. I'm afraid he is afraid. In that case, you are completely useless. You can die now." Chapter 923. Disregarding everything whoosh. A blood-red light tore through the air. Xiaoyan Qinglin, who was originally aiming for Ruan Lingyu's chest, sensed the blood-red light. His eyes narrowed as he changed the direction of his palm. He spat out Yuan power and blasted it towards the blood-red light. Boom! An explosion sounded as a terrifying gale swept out between the blood-red light and Xiaoyan Qinglin. Xiaoyan Qinglin's expression changed slightly as he realized that the power of the blood-red light was extremely terrifying. With a furious roar, Xiaoyan Qinglin pressed his right hand down. A terrifying surge of Yuan power surged out and collided with the blood-red light in his palm. Then, the blood-red light was directly blasted away. He was also forced back by the rebound force. His left hand, which was originally holding Ruan Lingyu, loosened. Ruan Lingyu cried out in alarm as she fell from the sky. However, a lightning figure flashed past Ruan Lingyu's body like lightning and hugged her waist. With a leap, the figure flashed onto the roof of a tiled house. "Young Master Zhua, why are you here?" That's the #1 genius of the Shaoyan family, Shaoyan Qinglin. You better leave this place. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. Ruan Lingyu also saw the true face of the figure who had hugged her waist. It was Yuan, who had originally left the Ruan family. Her face was filled with surprise, but soon after, she spoke with some worry. Seeing that Ruan Lingyu's first concern was for his safety, Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of a gentle smile. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. This Shaoyan Qinglin is still no match for me." Looking at the clear and confident young man in front of her, Ruan Lingyu could not help but be a little stunned. Then she realized that Zhuan was hugging her waist. Ruan Lingyu's cheeks instantly turned red like a bright red apple. "Young Master Zhua, can you put me down now?" Ruan Lingyu said softly. "Sorry, I'll put you down now." Zhuan was a little embarrassed. He hurriedly put Ruan Lingyu down and touched his nose, not knowing what to say. "Are you two done showing off your love? If you're done showing off, I'll send you to the Yellow Springs," said a cold voice. Shaoyan Qinglin pressed down with his right hand. Terrifying Yuanli condensed into a mountain-like palm and flew toward Zhuan and Ruan Lingyu. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as a terrifying mental strength surged out. The greater limitless sword formation followed the mental strength and covered his body, forming an impenetrable wall in front of him. Rumble! The huge palm made of elemental energy smashed down, causing the iron bastion to shake violently. However, it did not break through the ladder's defense. "Miss Lingyu, you should leave this place first. If the aftermath of the battle spreads, the consequences will be unimaginable." After blocking Shaoyan Qinglin's origin energy palm, Zhuowen's gaze was as calm as still water as he spoke softly to Ruan Lingyu beside him. "Young Master Zhuo, you must be careful." Ruan Lingyu nodded obediently. She had seen Zhuowen's strength in the training field just now. She knew that it would not be easy for Shaoyan Qinglin to kill Zhuowen. As she spoke, Ruan Lingyu jumped back into the Ruan clan's training field under the protection of Zhuowen's Yunli. "Lingyu, are you all right?" Ruan Xianfeng hurried to Ruan Lingyu's side and asked guiltily. Ruan Lingyu shook her head and smiled. "Father, don't worry, I'm fine." Ruan Xianfeng checked the meridians in Ruan Lingyu's body. After confirming that she was indeed fine, he let out a sigh of relief. Then he stared at Zhuowen's back with a complicated gaze. Previously, the Ruan clan had been targeting Zhuowen, causing Zhuowen to leave the Ruan clan in a fit of anger. However, Zhuowen did not care about the past and came to save Ruan Lingyu. The Ruan clan repaid kindness with enmity, while Zhuowen repaid kindness with kindness. Thinking of this, Ruan Xianfeng could not help but feel extremely guilty. Mental energy? It seems that your strength is not bad. You were actually able to block my casual attack." Shaoyan Qinglin stood in the air and looked down at Zhuowen. Although he was surprised that Zhuowen was able to block his attack, he was still filled with arrogance. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Isn't this Shaoyan Qinglin a little too full of himself? Does he think that Zhuowen is amazing for being able to block his casual attack? Or does Shaoyan Qinglin think that Zhuowen can only block his casual attack? If Shaoyan Qinglin used his full strength, Zhuowen would not be a match for him? Now that I've used half of my strength, I don't know if you can still block it like before. If you can't, then it's better for you to die. Shaoyan Qinglin's face was still filled with arrogance. It was as if he thought highly of Zhuowen by using half of his strength. "Idiot," said Zhuowen coldly. Shaoyan Qinglin's face stiffened. He stared at Zhuowen and said, "What did you just say? Do you dare say it again?" "I said you're an idiot. Are you deaf? Don't you understand human language?" said Zhuowen loudly. Boom! The powerful qi surged out. Shaoyan Qinglin was shaking with anger. He stared at Zhuowen coldly and said, Good, good, good. You've got guts. How dare you provoke me? But the consequences are very serious. Now, I'm going to use my full strength to kill you." What a terrifying qi. Shaoyan Qinglin is much stronger than before. He's already half a step into the Xuanzuan realm. He's advancing so fast. He's already half a step into the Xuanzuan realm. Does that mean that Shaoyan Qinglin will soon advance to the Xuanzuan realm? Sensing the powerful aura emanating from Shaoyan Qinglin, Many of the spectating martial artists in Flame City were shocked. In Flame City, only the 5 demonic geniuses could reach the Mystique Venerate realm. Since Xiaoyan Qinglin could reach the half-step Mystique Venerate realm, it was obvious that he was very close to the 5 demonic geniuses. Are you afraid? But it's useless to be afraid. Now, even if you kneel on the ground and beg me for mercy, I won't let you go. You will die today. At this moment, Xiaoyan Qinglin's qi was very strong. Gusts of wind whistled past. His clothes and hair fluttered. He looked like a god. An idiot will always be an idiot. You think that half a step into the Xuanzun realm is great, but in my eyes, it's no different from trash, said Zhuowen indifferently. As soon as these words came out, many warriors in the crowd burst into an uproar. Wasn't this mysterious young man too arrogant? He actually dared to say that half a step into the Xuanzun realm was trash in his eyes. You are very good at talking big, but the price of talking big is often miserable. So die. Xiaoyan Qinglin snorted coldly. He stamped his foot. Suddenly, a cold air gushed out from his body. His fluttering long hair turned icy blue under the influence of this cold air. Traces of icicles swept out from his hair. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes turned into a strange icy blue at this moment. It looked very strange. That's the unique skill of the Xiaoyan family, the 9 revolving ice god technique. I didn't expect Xiaoyan Qinglin to use this unique skill at the beginning. It seems that he intends to kill Zhuowen with one blow. Some of the knowledgeable martialists below cried out in surprise when they saw Xiaoyan Qinglin's moves. They looked at Zhuowen with pity in their eyes. First revolving ice. Xiaoyan Qinglin shouted in a low voice. His right hand grasped the void. Endless cold air gushed out and gathered into a big ice hand. It crushed toward Zhuowen. Weeping blood technique. Zhuowen pointed his sword with his right hand. Suddenly, the ultimate sword formation turned into countless bloody lights. A drop of blood dripped down from the void and fell on the barren land. A terrifying pressure gushed out. Boom! The giant ice hand slammed into the crimson light and trembled violently. Then, it disintegrated. The number 1 genius of the Xiaoyan family? Is that all you have? Then were all your big words just now bullshit? Zhuowen's sarcastic voice made Xiaoyan Qinglin's expression change slightly. He snorted coldly and said, "It seems that you have some skills. But if you think that this is all I have, then you are very wrong." Then Xiaoyan Qinglin grabbed the void again and shouted, "Second revolving spirit, third revolving super." As soon as he said this, an extremely terrifying ice storm arose in the void. 2 more terrifying ice hands stretched out from the storm and were about to grab the ultimate sword formation of the blood technique. Yin-Yang technique. Zhuowen did not want to be outdone. The ultimate sword formation split into Yin and Yang. The Yin and Yang pattern rotated at high speed and crushed the 2 ice hands. Fourth revolving reversal. Xiaoyan Qinglin was not slow. He performed another spell and the ice storm became even more terrifying. It merged into one and turned into a terrifying funnel-shaped snowstorm that blasted toward the Yin and Yang sword formation. Buzz! Buzz! The power of the snowstorm was so terrifying that it made the Yin and Yang sword formation cry out and show signs of collapsing. Heaven's bane! Zhuowen was not in a hurry. His mental energy poured out, and the Yin-Yang sword formation collapsed. It actually turned into a huge dome and rushed toward the terrifying snowstorm without showing any signs of weakness. Boom! On one side was the heavenly dome, and on the other side was the devastating snowstorm. The 2 terrifying and different attacks collided, forming brilliant fireworks and causing the entire void to tremble violently. Damn it! How can this guy's mental strength be so strong? Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes turned gloomy. Originally, he thought that with his half-step Xuanzun realm cultivation, it should be easy to deal with the ordinary Zhuowen. However, the reality was playing a joke on him. Not only did he fail to capture Zhuowen, but he was also at a disadvantage. This was undoubtedly a slap to his face. I have only learned the 4th revolving ice god technique. If I use the 5th revolving skill with my current strength, I'm afraid I will have to pay a high price. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes flickered. He finally decided to use the fifth revolving skill. Zhuan gave him a lot of pressure. He knew that if he did not use the fifth revolving skill, he would not be able to defeat Zhuan. After all, he had boasted before. If he could not get rid of Zhuan, he would become the laughingstock of Yen City. This was something that Xiaoyan Qinglin could not accept. Fifth revolving divine. Chapter 924. Trample, Fifth Transformation Spirit. As soon as Xiaoyan Qinglin said that, the funnel-shaped snowstorm in the sky started to boil. Then, everyone noticed that there was a huge shadow looming in the snowstorm. Bang! The huge shadow roared and blasted towards the domed dome. Terrifying explosions resounded in the area. Crack! Then, the domed dome collapsed under the attack of the huge shadow. Zhuan narrowed his eyes. It seemed that Xiaoyan Qinglin's 9 transformation ice god technique was not simple. It could unleash such terrifying power. This is what you get for disobeying me, Xiaoyan Qinglin. So die. Xiaoyan Qinglin's face was pale, but his eyes were full of arrogance. This was the first time he had used the 5th transformation of the 9 transformation ice god technique. In the Xiaoyan family, his father, Xiaoyan Zhua, had only cultivated to the 6th transformation, while his grandfather had cultivated to the 7th transformation. The cultivation method in his hands was extremely powerful. Each revolution was tens or even hundreds of times stronger than the previous revolution. Although the 5th revolution was only 1 revolution away from the 4th revolution, the difference in power between the two was like heaven and earth. A look of surprise flashed across Zhuo Wen's eyes as a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The sword sign in his right hand changed, and a terrifying aura swept out. Then, the greater infinite sword formation turned back into rays of sword light. The 4th move of the infinite sword formation, 1,000 swords. As soon as the cold voice fell, the countless sword rays above Zhuo Wen transformed into a hurricane, condensing into many huge longswords. Each longsword was dozens of feet long, sharp and threatening, with a chilling aura soaring to the sky. A total of 1,000 huge swords hovered above Zhuo Wen. Their terrifyingly sharp sword qi continued to spread in all directions, capable of ripping the surrounding space to shreds. This was the first time Zhuo Wen had utilized the 4th move of the Greater Infinity Sword Array's 5 great sword moves, the 1,000 sword style. However, judging from the terrifying power displayed by the 1,000 sword style, Zhuo Wen was quite satisfied. Break it! With a leap, Zhuo Wen stepped on one of the huge swords and flew up. The remaining 999 huge swords followed Zhuo Wen and swept towards the huge shadow in the snowstorm. Ooh. The huge shadow roared and threw a punch. It was wrapped in endless snowstorm and crushed down on Zhuo. It wanted to kill Zhuo Wen, who was surrounded by the 1,000 swords. So Zhuo Wen formed a seal with both hands. Immediately, the 100 huge swords at the front turned into a huge sword shield. With a rumble, the huge shadow's fist hit the huge sword shield. The terrifying power caused the huge sword shield to shake violently, but it did not break through the shield's defense. Following that, the remaining 900 giant swords let out sword hums as they followed Zhuo Wen's instructions and circled behind the giant shadow, attacking it one after another. The huge swords were extremely sharp and could cut iron like mud. As soon as they sank into the huge shadow, they were able to cut deep wounds, causing the huge shadow to roar in pain. However, the huge shadow's movements were too slow, and Zhuo Wen's 1,000 swords was extremely fast. Even when the huge shadow reacted, Zhuo Wen had already controlled the huge swords to leave their original positions, causing the huge shadow to miss. Zhuo Wen's face was expressionless. He formed a seal with both hands and accurately controlled the huge swords to slash at the huge shadow. As time passed, the huge shadow's huge body was cut smaller and smaller by the huge swords. In the end, it was cut into countless pieces by the huge swords. As soon as the huge shadow died, the surrounding snowstorm also stopped. Then Zhuo Wen took the 1,000 huge swords and turned into 1,000 streamers. In an instant he arrived in front of Xiaoyan Qinglin. One of the huge swords let out a sword hum and stabbed towards Xiaoyan Qinglin. How is this possible? Even the 5th rotation has been broken? How can this guy's mental energy be so terrifying? Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes were filled with both shock and anger. He spat out his right palm and blocked the incoming huge sword. With a stomp of his foot, he transformed into a streamer and fled into the distance. Even his strongest attack was unable to do anything to Zhuan. Xiaoyan Qinglin knew that if they really fought, he was simply no match for Zhuan. Hence, he could only flee. Do you think you can escape? Zhuan's eyes were indifferent. He formed a sword seal with his right hand and 1,000 huge swords flew out, instantly blocking Xiaoyan Qinglin's path. Zhuan, don't go overboard. I am the eldest son of the Xiaoyan family. Do you dare to touch me? Xiaoyan Qinglin's expression was ugly as he turned around and coldly stared at Zhuan. Does it have anything to do with me? Zhuan's words caused Xiaoyan Qinglin's expression to stiffen slightly. Soon after, he coldly said, "You should be well aware of the Xiaoyan family's influence in Yen City. If you dare to kill me, our Xiaoyan family will definitely not let you off. I even killed Xiaoyan Pu, and you even threatened to kill me earlier. Could it be that if I let you off now, your Xiaoyan family will let me off?" Zhuan suddenly sneered. Xiaoyan Qinglin was at death's door, yet he actually dared to use the Xiaoyan family to pressure him. How laughable! Xiaoyan Qinglin coldly snorted and said, "If you let me off now, our Xiaoyan family will give you a dignified death. Otherwise, you will suffer a fate worse than death." You mean that regardless of whether I let you off or not, I, Zhuan, will die? Then tell me, since I'm going to die no matter what I choose, then why don't I drag you down with me? Zhuan spoke indifferently. Xiaoyan Qinglin's face stiffened. At this moment, he realized that his words from before were somewhat inappropriate. Weren't those words clearly indicating that he wanted Zhuan to kill him? However, with Xiaoyan Qinglin's pride, he didn't want to change his words so easily. He merely said indifferently, "Then do as you deem fit. Offending our Xiaoyan family isn't a wise action." What an idiot! Zhuan couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the arrogant Xiaoyan Qinglin. He formed a seal with his right hand, and a ray of light swiftly flashed past Xiaoyan Qinglin's legs. Spurt! A stream of blood sprayed out, and strands of mournful red sprinkled down from the sky. A pair of severed legs fell from the sky, and then a miserable and shrill cry resounded. Xiaoyan Qinglin's legs had been severed at the knees. An idiot like you will only bring shame to the Xiaoyan family behind you if you're still alive. Then why are you still alive? Zhuan's cold voice resounded in the air. Then he appeared in front of Xiaoyan Qinglin and stepped on his chest, causing Xiaoyan Qinglin to spit out a mouthful of blood. Xiaoyan Qinglin fell to the ground like a meteor, creating a huge crater. You dare to sever my legs? You'll die a horrible death. In the crater, miserable shrieks continuously rang out. Xiaoyan Qinglin struggled in the crater in an extremely sorry state. His face was ferocious, and his eyes were scarlet red. This scene was naturally witnessed by the numerous practitioners in Yen City, especially Xiaoyan Qinglin, whose legs had been broken. Every single one of them sucked in a breath of cold air. This young man called Zhuan, who had suddenly appeared, had terrifying strength and ruthless methods. Not only was Xiaoyan Qinglin no match for him, but what was even more tragic was that Xiaoyan Qinglin's legs had been severed as well. Although Xiaoyan Qinglin's talent was peerless and his strength was terrifying, losing his legs would make his future martial path bleak. It could even affect his state of mind. Bang, bang, bang. 1,000 giant swords descended from the sky and slammed into the surroundings of the crater. With the crater as the center, they formed a circle of swords. Zhuan slowly stepped down from the air and landed in the center of the crater. He viciously stomped on Xiaoyan Qinglin's chest. Spurt! Xiaoyan Qinglin, who had originally wanted to hurl abuse at Zhuan, swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. His face flushed red as Zhuan stepped on him. "I severed your legs, and you want me to die a horrible death? But I'm still alive and well. Why would you want me to die a horrible death?" Zhuan said indifferently. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes were gloomy. He was already regretting his actions. This Zhuan in front of him was too terrifying. He actually took the initiative to provoke such a terrifying person. He felt a little stupid. However, it was useless to think about it now. What Xiaoyan Qinglin wanted now was to survive. After all, this Zhuan in front of him didn't look like an indecisive person. If this Zhuan really wanted to kill him, he wouldn't hesitate. My legs have been severed by you. Isn't that enough? If you spare my life, I can guarantee that the Xiaoyan family won't do anything to you. Xiaoyan Qinglin was finally afraid. This was the first time he had admitted defeat in front of Zhuan. He really didn't want to die. He still had a great future. How could he die like this? Oh, now you're afraid? You're finally begging me for mercy? Zhuan said with a mocking smile. Yes. Spare my life. My Xiaoyan family won't do anything to you. I promise. Xiaoyan Qinglin quickly said. Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying aura swept over from the horizon. Immediately, a group of figures appeared in the sky above the Ruan family. There were more than 20 of these figures. Each of them had a terrifying aura. The weakest was actually a ninth-wheel ultimate emperor. The strongest was the middle-aged man in the lead. This middle-aged man's aura was full and sharp. He was somewhat similar to Xiaoyan Qinglin. This person's cultivation had reached the peak of the Xuanzuan realm. He was only a step away from the supremacy realm. It's the head of the Xiaoyan family, Xiaoyan Zhua. Behind him are the true experts of the Xiaoyan family. I didn't expect them to all come. Many of the practitioners in Yen City recognized this mighty lineup of powerful practitioners as shock surfaced on their faces. At this moment, Xiaoyan Qinglin, who was under Zhuan's foot, was pleasantly surprised. He quickly said to Zhuan, now that the experts of my Xiaoyan family are here, you'd better let me go. Otherwise, you'll end up very miserable. Are you trying to threaten me again? Zhuan's eyes were indifferent. He suddenly stomped his foot. Xiaoyan Qinglin was stomped into the ground again. His chest was almost caved in. Fresh blood spurted out. He was almost suffocating. Xiaoyan Qinglin didn't dare to say anything. This Zhuan was too unscrupulous. The people of the Xiaoyan family were already here. He didn't have any scruples and still treated him like this. He was too lawless. Chapter 925. Xiaoyan Zhuo was furious. Bastard! Quickly let Qinglin go, then bind your own arms, cripple your own cultivation, and kneel before me to beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, I'll make living worse than death for you. Xiaoyan Zhuo berated furiously at Zhuan, and his voice was thunderous and suffused the surroundings. Zhuan raised his head slightly and stared indifferently at Xiaoyan Zhuo. You mean that even if I let this piece of trash go, you'll still make me cripple my own cultivation and kneel before you while my life and death will still be in your hands? Xiaoyan Zhuo grunted coldly and said, Of course. Who do you think you are? You killed a member of my Xiaoyan clan and caused Qinglin to be reduced to such a state. Allowing you to cripple your own cultivation is already the greatest benevolence I can show you. The greatest benevolence? Zhuan laughed with ridicule as he stomped his foot down on Xiaoyan Qinglin's chest, causing the latter to spit out a mouthful of blood while his aura weakened to the extreme. Moreover, his eyes were unfocused while he seemed to be in a slightly dazed state. Xiaoyan Qinglin, you have to remember that it wasn't I, Zhuan, who wanted to kill you, and it was your father who forced me to do so. Since he said that even if I, Zhuan, let you go, he would still make me cripple my own cultivation and kneel before him. Obviously, he doesn't intend to let me go. Since it's like that, then it just so happens that I can drag you down with me. It wouldn't be a loss in that way. Don't you think so? As he spoke, a blood-red spear appeared in Zhuan's right palm, and the tip of the blood-red spear just happened to be pressed against Xiaoyan Qinglin's neck. The oppressive cold glow it emanated caused the hairs on Xiaoyan Qinglin's entire body to stand on end, and he hurriedly cried out. Don't kill me! Let me go! Kid! How dare you! Xiaoyan Zhuo roared furiously as he flashed toward Zhuan, and then he pressed down with his right hand, causing a terrifying wave of origin energy to crush down toward Zhuan like a mountain. Look, your father is forcing me to kill you. Since it's like that, then you should just die. As he gazed at Xiaoyan Zhuo, who attacked fearlessly, Zhuan's gaze turned cold, and he swung the blood-red spear horizontally. It instantly swept past Xiaoyan Qinglin's neck and caused strands of blood. Pucci. Xiaoyan Qinglin's eyes widened. Even in death, he still couldn't believe that this Zhuan had actually dared to kill him. Moreover, he hadn't hesitated in the slightest. 3 pairs of lightning wings unfurled, and Zhuan turned into an illusory lightning bolt, instantly dodging Xiaoyan's attack. Silence. At this moment, the surroundings became extremely quiet. Not only the onlookers, but even Xiaoyan, who was rushing forward, stopped in midair. His gaze was fixed on the deep pit below, where Xiaoyan Qinglin had completely lost his breath. After a long period of silence, Xiaoyan's raised his head and roared, "Bastard, you dared to kill my son. Today I, Xiaoyan's will kill you. Men, capture this little bastard. I want him to suffer a fate worse than death." As soon as these words came out, more than 20 experts of the Xiaoyan family behind Xiaoyan's nodded. Immediately, their imposing aura became like rainbows, and they surrounded Zhuan with cold and ruthless gazes. Xiaoyan's came to the deep pit and gently picked up Xiaoyan Qinglin's body. His eyes were filled with grief and indignation. His Xiaoyan family had painstakingly cultivated a monstrous genius, who might even surpass him in the future. Xiaoyan Qinglin had actually died like this. Xiaoyan's only felt his heart ache at this moment. His hatred for Zhuan was monstrous, and he couldn't wait for Zhuan to die without a burial place. That Zhuan is really bold. He actually killed Xiaoyan Qinglin in front of Xiaoyan's. He's really arrogant. He's really arrogant, but I'm afraid this kid's end won't be good. The Xiaoyan family has only had one genius like Xiaoyan Qinglin for many years, and now he's been killed by Zhuan just like that. Xiaoyan's won't let him go. The Xiaoyan family has sent out all their elite experts this time. Those 20 or so are basically all elders with high positions in the family. 2 of them are even at the early stage of the Xuanzuan realm, while the rest are at the ultimate 9-wheel emperor realm or above. This lineup is too terrifying. Seeing the lineup that surrounded Zhuan, many people shook their heads and sighed. Since Zhuan could defeat Xiaoyan Qinglin, he was clearly a monstrous genius with great talent, but now he was going to die because of this. Many cultivators couldn't help but sigh. "Father, what should we do?" Young Master Zhua has been surrounded by people from the Xiaoyan family. At this moment, only Ruan Xianfeng, Ruan Lingyu, and Leng Ying were left in the martial arts field of the Ruan family. Ruan Lingyu asked worriedly. Ruan Xianfeng shook his head and said with a complicated look in his eyes, "I can't do anything about this. Little brother Zhua is very strong. Killing Xiaoyan Qinglin is probably his limit. I'm afraid he's no match for these 20 or so experts from the Xiaoyan family. Not to mention me." At this point, Ruan Xuanfeng's face was full of a bitter smile. Zhuowen's strength was far beyond his expectations. Not only did Zhuowen defeat him, but he even killed Xiaoyan Qinglin, who was half a step away from the Xuanzuan realm. Such strength was considered a monstrous genius at Zhuowen's age. However, a battle of this level was not something he could intervene in. In other words, Ruan Xianfeng was no different from an ant in the eyes of the experts from the Xiaoyan family. Leng Ying, who was standing behind the two, had a venomous look in her eyes. Although Zhuowen's strength had shocked her, she was more resentful because her father, Leng Feng, was killed by Zhuowen. And because of Zhuowen, the Ruan family had become what it was today. Leng Ying blamed everything on Zhuowen. She didn't know that if she and Leng Feng hadn't been so aggressive, Zhuowen wouldn't have attacked them. Leng Ying and Leng Feng were the ones who brought this upon themselves. Who could they blame for this? You're Zhuowen, right? How dare you kill someone from the Xiaoyan family? You've got guts. More than 20 people surrounded Zhuowen. The auras of the 2 black-robed old men in the lead were the most vigorous. They were actually at the early stage of the Xuanzuan realm. The rest of the people were all at least at the ultimate 9th-wheel emperor realm. Such a lineup was almost the strongest lineup that the Xiaoyan family could bring out. In their opinion, it was completely unnecessary for more than 20 people to attack the young man in front of them. However, Xiaoyan Zhuo was the head of the Xiaoyan family, so they naturally didn't dare to disobey. You've got guts for killing a piece of trash? You think too highly of yourselves? Zhuowen sneered. As soon as these words came out, the pupils of more than 20 people shrank, and their faces turned cold. Zhuowen's words were very vicious. He actually dared to call the number one genius of the Shaoyan family, Shaoyan Qinglin, a piece of trash. Looks like you're really looking for death. Let's kill him together. The two black-robed old men in the lead snorted coldly and waved their right hands. Suddenly, more than 20 people around them erupted with their own auras. They used their own powerful moves and waved them at Zhuowen in the center. For a moment, terrifying origin energy fluctuations spread out in the surroundings. Various colors of origin energy exploded above the void like colorful fireworks. It looked very colorful. That Zhuowen is finished. The joint attack of so many experts is too powerful. Even if Zhuowen's strength has reached the Xuanzuan realm, I'm afraid he can't withstand such a terrifying attack. Many warriors below Yen City looked up at the sky. Naturally, they also saw the intersecting energy balls that were constantly exploding. All of them revealed looks of surprise. The joint attack of more than 20 experts was indeed terrifying. Even an early-stage warrior of the Xuanzuan realm would probably be smashed to pieces if he was caught in the explosion of the energy balls, let alone Zhuowen. In the void, the two black-robed old men in the lead raised the corners of their mouths and revealed a victorious smile. They were quite satisfied with the powerful attack of more than 20 people. Let's go. This kid is definitely going to die. Let's return to our master. The two black-robed old men waved their hands. Immediately, the remaining 20 people followed behind the two old men. They intended to leave the void and rush towards Shaoyanzhua below. Did I allow you to leave? A calm voice slowly rang out in the void. It was very flat and faint, but it sounded like an echo in everyone's ears. The 20-plus people who were about to leave stiffened. They immediately turned their heads to look at the explosion cluster behind them. After which, they were stunned to discover that a human figure was slowly walking out from the explosion cluster. It was as though he was not afraid of the surrounding terrifying energy erosion. When this figure completely appeared before them, they noticed that an enormous furnace was actually floating above this person's head. The surface of this furnace was inscribed with the talisman markings of the sun, and it was precisely Zhuo Wen's monarch-rank spirit treasure, the divine sun furnace. Waves of sun fire revolved around Zhuo Wen's body, resisting the erosion of the surrounding terrifying energy. At this moment, Zhuo Wen was like a sun god. He appeared so dazzling and brilliant. What kind of soul treasure is this? Why does it have such a powerful aura? The two old men in the lead revealed expressions of surprise and bewilderment. The aura of the divine sun furnace floating above Zhuo Wen's head was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that the two old men couldn't help but have the thought of submitting to it. Could it be a royal soul treasure? Soon, the two black-robed old men thought of a possibility. The two of them were cultivators of the Xuanzuan realm, so they had naturally seen heaven's soul treasures before. As for royal soul treasures, they had only seen one from the ancestor of the Shaoyan family. The aura of the divine sun furnace on the young man in front of them was almost the same as the royal soul treasure used by the ancestor of the Shaoyan family. Needless to say, this furnace was definitely a royal soul treasure. It's actually a royal soul treasure. This brat who stinks of milk actually has such a treasure. It's really a waste. This kind of treasure should belong to our Shaoyan family. It's most suitable. After the shock, the two black-robed old men looked at each other and saw a hint of greed in their eyes. They were determined to get this royal soul treasure. Ha, brat, you're quite a good person. You actually took out such a treasure. Since you've taken it out, we won't be polite and accept it. As the two black-robed old men spoke, they led more than 20 people behind them and flew toward Zhuowen. They wanted to capture Zhuowen and seize the divine sun furnace. Killing people and seizing treasures? I'm afraid you don't have the qualifications. Chapter 9:26. Sneak attack. The sun runes on the surface of the divine sun cauldron burst out with an extremely terrifying light. Waves of blazing sun fire surged out, enveloping the two black-robed old men and more than 20 experts of the Shaoyan family. The sun fire was extremely terrifying. An ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm expert would not be able to withstand it at all. Inside the Sunfire, apart from the two black-robed old men with the highest cultivation who could barely withstand it, the other 20 Shaoyan family elders were all swallowed by the sea of fire and disappeared. How can it be so terrifying? The two black-robed old men in the sea of fire naturally noticed the other people being swallowed by the sea of fire. Their eyes were filled with fear. The terrifying might of the sun's flame was beyond the two old men's expectations. Zhuan waved his right hand, and the divine sun cauldron floating in the air quietly landed in his right palm. Then he stared coldly at the two black-robed old men in the sea of fire and said indifferently, "This spirit treasure is called the divine sun cauldron. Don't you want it? Just come and take it." As soon as these words were said, the two black-robed old men's faces stiffened. Was Zhuan joking? They were trapped in the sea of fire and were barely holding on. This kid actually wanted them to come and take the divine sun cauldron. Was he deliberately angering them? "Since you don't want it, then die." As he spoke, Zhuan's eyes were filled with killing intent. His right hand suddenly slammed onto the surface of the divine sun cauldron. Immediately, an even more terrifying sun fire surged out from the cauldron and drowned the two black-robed old men. "Spare us. It was not our intention to come and kill you. As long as you let us go, we are willing to follow you." The two black-robed old men's terrified cries came from the sea of fire. It was too terrifying. This sun fire could completely kill the two of them. They were truly afraid. At this moment, in a huge pit below Yen City, Xiaoyan's was slowly put down the corpse of Xiaoyan Qinglin. He stared at the expert of the Xiaoyan family who had been instantly killed in surprise. Especially the words of the two black-robed old men, it caused Xiaoyan's gaze to turn extremely gloomy. He had never imagined that the situation would develop in such a way. Moreover, he had never imagined that Zhuan would actually possess such a terrifying royal-rank spiritual treasure. "Follow me? You two trash really aren't qualified. Just die for me." Zhuan coldly snorted, no longer showing any mercy. Endless sun flames spread out, completely submerging the two black-robed old men. Not long after, the screams of the two black-robed old men were completely extinguished. Waves of sun fire once again entered the divine sun furnace, and the two black-robed elders were completely turned into ashes. In an instant, more than 20 elite experts from the Xiaoyan family had been completely annihilated. Not only were the spectating cultivators in Yen City shocked, even Xiaoyan's couldn't help but twitch his mouth, his expression extremely ugly. "Xiaoyan clan head, didn't you just make me, Zhuan, wish I was dead? Why haven't you come up yet?" After he dealt with the two black-robed old men, Zhuan stood in midair and looked down at Xiaoyan's who had an unsightly expression. His gaze was ghastly and indifferent while his shout resounded out like rumbling thunder and suffused the entire expanse of space. What? Zhuan's voice was neither loud nor soft, but many cultivators within a radius of dozens of miles could hear it clearly. Then, their gazes converged on Xiaoyan's in unison. Xiaoyan's eyes were gloomy as he felt the gazes of so many people. In fact, after Zhuan took out the divine sun furnace and easily killed more than 20 elite experts of the Xiaoyan family, Xiaoyan's was already a little scared. Although his cultivation was good, it was only at the peak of the Xuanzuan realm. However, among the more than 20 cultivators, the two black-robed old men were also at the initial stage of the Xuanzuan realm, although their cultivation was not as good as his. Even if he could win against more than 20 experts, it would be impossible for him to win as easily as Zhuan. Moreover, Zhuan had easily killed more than 20 experts. Therefore, at this moment, Xiaoyan's hesitated. He began to lose confidence in Zhuan. What are you hesitating for, Xiaoyan family head? Zhuan, want to see how you, Xiaoyan family head, will make my life worse than death. What's wrong? Are you scared?" Zhuan's sneering voice spread throughout the entire void, causing many cultivators' gazes to become strange. Could it be, as Zhuan said, that the Xiaoyan family head, Xiaoyan's was really scared? Xiaoyan's coldly snorted and stamped his foot. Waves of cold air covered his whole body as he floated in the air and landed 100 meters away from Zhuan. His eyes were gloomy as he said, You're Jun, right? It seems that you're really arrogant. Do you really think that you can fight against my Shaoyan family alone? Shaoyan family head, you're exaggerating. This kid didn't say that. It's just that the more than 20 so-called elite experts you sent before seem to be quite useless. Therefore, I hope that the family head can send some decent experts instead of some random cats and dogs to mess with people. As soon as Zhuan said this, Xiaoyan's face stiffened and his whole body trembled. This was going too far. This Zhuan not only killed more than 20 high-level cultivators of the Shaoyan family, but now he was ridiculing the high-level cultivators of the Shaoyan family. Wasn't this a disguised way of saying that the experts of the Shaoyan family were all useless? You're very conceited, but generally, conceited people die early. I don't think you can escape this fate, Xiaoyan's was said coldly. Zhuowen's eyes were as calm as water as he said indifferently, then there's no need for the Shaoyan family head to worry. As long as an enemy obstructs me, I'll kill them all, regardless of their background. However, as soon as Zhuan finished speaking, he noticed a strange smile on the corner of Xiaoyan's mouth. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed and a trace of ominous feeling rose in his heart. A wisp of black light silently swept over from behind Zhuowen's back. It was silent, like a lonely shadow in the middle of the night. By the time Zhuowen noticed it, the wisp of black light was already close to him. A cold, sharp edge was already pressed against the skin of his back. As long as it moved forward a little bit, the sharp edge would be able to pierce through Zhuowen's back. Dodge! Zhuan shouted angrily. He moved his feet and lowered his body. The sharp edge that was piercing towards his back suddenly pierced towards his shoulder blade. Puchi! The sound of flesh being pierced was heard. A black long sword surrounded by a black mist pierced through Zhuowen's shoulder blade from the back, bringing out a stream of blood. 3 pairs of lightning wings unfurled as Zhuan turned into a bolt of lightning and flew backwards. He then turned his head with an extremely gloomy gaze and stared at the person who had just ambushed him. The person who appeared in front of Zhuan was a figure completely covered in black mist. Naturally, Zhuan recognized this person. Wasn't he the Devil Shadow from the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace who had chased after him in the dense forest? Your vigilance is quite strong. You were actually able to dodge my sure-kill attack. Moreover, your strength seems to be much stronger than before? The Devil Shadow's cold voice was heard. There was a trace of astonishment in his voice. Looks like my luck is pretty good. I actually met so many acquaintances here. A lazy voice was heard. Then, Zui Qingfeng, who was dressed in a green and white robe, held a jade wine gourd in his hand. He poured the wine into his mouth with his right hand and burped at the same time. He looked at Zhuan with drunken eyes. However, Zhuan could see that the drunkenness in Zui Qingfeng's eyes was a kind of disguise. In those drunken eyes, there was a deep chill. This chill was targeted at Zhuan. Back then, Zui Qingfeng had been put in an extremely difficult situation because of Zhuan. Zui Qingfeng had never forgotten that. Now that he had met this Zhuan, he would definitely not let him go. Clear Void Valley's Zui Qingfeng, Devil Shadow from the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. I never thought that these 2 monstrous geniuses would be lured out. This is really surprising. Seeing the sudden appearance of these 2 people, many of the Yen City's practitioners were shocked. Zui Qingfeng and Devil Shadow were young geniuses who were much more terrifying than Xiaoyan Qinglin. Their strength was not inferior to the head of the Shaoyan family, Xiaoyan Zhua. Moreover, looking at Zui Qingfeng and Devil Shadow's appearance, they seemed to know Zhuan. There seemed to be a certain grudge between them. Otherwise, Devil Shadow would not have suddenly launched a sneak attack when Zhuan and Xiaoyan Zhua were confronting each other. I never thought that the 2 young masters, Devil Shadow and Zui Qingfeng, would also come. From the looks of it, the 2 of you are also somewhat dissatisfied with this Zhuan. Why don't the 3 of us join forces to completely capture this child? After all, this child has many secrets on him. The 2 young masters should be somewhat tempted, right? Xiaoyan Zhua politely cupped his hands towards Devil Shadow and Zui Qingfeng. He knew about Devil Shadow's sneak attack because Devil Shadow had sent a message to him, telling him to try his best to attract Zhuowen's attention so that he could succeed in his sneak attack. However, Zhuowen's vigilance was too strong. his reaction was also extremely fast. Under the sneak attack that was sure to kill him, he was actually able to avoid being hit in his vitals. Xiaoyan family head is too polite. This Zhuan does indeed have many secrets on him. Moreover, this child's strength is not weak. We only need to delay this child. I have already secretly informed the palace master. When the palace master arrives, this child will not be able to escape. Devil Shadow politely replied to Xiao Yanzhua. What? The palace master of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace, Senior Devil Daozi, is also coming? Xiao Yanzhua was shocked. Although this Zhuowen's strength was not bad, it was still not enough for the palace master of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace, Master Devil Daozi, to personally take action. At the very least, Xiao Yanzhua felt that Master Devil Daozi was making a fuss over nothing. Our Clear Void Valley's sect master is also on his way. He should be arriving soon. Zue Qingfeng also cupped his hands and said, "What? Even the Clear Void Valley's sect master, Senior Qing Shuzi, is coming?" Xiao Yanzhua finally exclaimed in shock. He was already shocked enough that Master Devil Daozi was coming. Now that even Qing Shuzi was coming, Xiao Yanzhua really did not know what to say. Thinking of this, Xiao Yanzhua's gaze could not help but size up Zhuowen, who was not far away. Could it be that this child had some kind of big secret on him that he could actually provoke the two giants of the Great Yen City, Master Devil Daozi and Qing Shuzi, to fight over him? This child is definitely not simple. I have to report this to the ancestor. Chapter 927. Explosive Strength. The three of us only need to delay this brat. There's no need to risk our lives. After all, in our opinion, this brat is dead for sure. Mo Ying laughed sinisterly. Brother Mo Ying is right. However, your Celestial Peak Devil Palace is much further away from Yen City than our Clear Void Valley. When the time comes, our sect master should arrive first. If our Clear Void Valley manages to capture him first, your Celestial Peak Devil Palace's senior demon Taoist won't need to come. Zue Qingfeng gulped down another mouthful of wine from his jade gourd. His face was slightly flushed and his eyes were hazy. Mo Ying narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "The palace master possesses the power of the devil. Even if the Celestial Peak Devil Palace is further away from your Clear Void Valley, the palace master's speed won't be much slower than your Clear Void Valley's Qing Su." Xiao Yanzhua's eyes flickered. Just now, he had already crushed the jade talisman. The ancestor of the Xiaoyan family who was in seclusion had almost received it and was currently on his way. Their Xiaoyan family was in Yen City and was the closest to them. There was no doubt that their Xiaoyan clan's ancestor would be the first to arrive. If their ancestor could capture Zhuowen before Master Demon Taoist and Master Qing Su arrived, then although they wouldn't be able to keep all the benefits, they would still be able to get a share of the spoils. Just as the three of them each had their own ulterior motives and thought that Zhuowen had already been captured, an extremely terrifying aura erupted from the center of the three of them, attracting their attention. When their gazes gathered on the owner of this aura, they were all shocked. The source of this aura was actually Zhuowen, whom they had overlooked. This aura is the sovereign stage? Xiao Yanzhua's mouth opened slightly as he spat out these words. Zue Qingfeng and Mo Ying exchanged glances. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. It was actually the sovereign stage. When they were chasing Zhuowen, he was merely an ultimate three-wheel emperor. How could he erupt with such a terrifying aura now? Could it be that this brat has been hiding his cultivation all this time? Zue Qingfeng's eyes flickered as he said solemnly. Mo Ying's eyelids twitched. He discovered a bone-chilling gaze staring straight at him, causing him to feel uneasy. The owner of this gaze was none other than Zhuowen. Demon Shadow. You're really something, you actually dared to sneak attack me. Zhuowen's voice was terrifyingly calm, but everyone knew that beneath this calmness was a monstrous killing intent. This Mo Ying's ability to hide was very strong. Just now, Zhuowen's attention was fully attracted by Xiao Yanzhua, so the former's sneak attack was successful. At that moment, if Zhuowen's actions were a beat slower, the Mo Ying's sword would have pierced his heart. At that time, there was really no way to save the situation. Today, you must die. Zhuowen's indifferent voice resounded. He stomped his foot, waved the blood spear in his hand, and used the Azura blood spear. Countless cracks appeared in the void, and an endless sea of blood gushed out from those cracks. Kill! With a loud roar, Yun rushed towards the demonic figure with the sea of blood wrapped around him. His killing intent soared to the heavens, and the sea of blood wreaked havoc. At this moment, Yun was like a demon god that had returned from Azura hell. Xiao Yenzhua, Zue Qingfeng, what are you two still watching? Hurry up and block this kid with me. As long as the palace master or Qing Su arrives, this kid won't be able to escape. The demonic figure stretched out his right hand, and a long sword surrounded by black fog appeared in his palm. He slashed the void, and a terrifying black energy spread across the void, turning into a huge sword shadow that slashed towards Yun. At the same time, he retreated and shouted at Zue Qingfeng and Xiao Yenzhua. Zue Qingfeng and Xiao Yenzhua's expressions were solemn. After Zhuan revealed his supreme stage aura, they no longer looked relaxed. In their hearts, they were cursing Zhuan for hiding his cultivation. Clear void sword technique, slash. Zue Qingfeng formed a sword technique with both hands, and wisps of green origin energy shot out, turning into thousands of sword shadows in the void, and swept toward Zhuan. At the same time, Xiao Yenzhua formed a complicated seal with both hands. He was actually using the 9 transformation ice god technique that Xiao Yanqing Lin had used before. 5th transformation ice god, die. Xiao Yenzhua pressed down with both hands, and a terrifying snowstorm appeared behind him. Within the snowstorm, a huge shadow was faintly discernible, stepping on the void. The 9 transformation ice god technique that Xiao Yenzhua had used was much more powerful than Xiao Yanqing Lin's, and the giant shadow's might was also much more terrifying than Xiao Yanqing Lin's. The black sword shadow that spanned across the void, the thousands of green sword shadows that were wantonly unleashed, and the terrifying giant figure that was stomping through the snowstorm formed a triangular formation. The 3 attacks headed straight for Zhuowen, who was in the center. The entire void was enveloped by these 3 terrifying attacks. All the cultivators in Yen City looked up at the sky with their mouths slightly agape. They had long been stunned by these 3 terrifying attacks. These were the joint attacks of 3 Xuanzun realm powerhouses, and these 3 Xuanzun realm powerhouses weren't ordinary cultivators. Not to mention that Xiao Yenzhua was at the peak of the Xuanzun realm, Zue Qingfeng and Mo Ying were the peerless geniuses of Yen City, and their combat strength was far from what ordinary Xuanzun realm cultivators could compare with. The 3 of them had extraordinary combat strength, and when they joined forces, they could even kill an early-stage Supreme Being cultivator. Although Zhuan had erupted with the aura of a Supreme Being, in the eyes of the 3 of them, he wasn't a match for their joint attack. Divine Sun Cauldron, 3 consecutive suns. Zhuan coldly shouted, and the sun runes on the surface of the Divine Sun Cauldron above his head became even more blazing and dazzling, and 3 huge blazing suns surged out. The surface of these 3 blazing suns surged with the flames of the sun, and they emitted a golden radiance that couldn't be looked at directly. The 3 blazing suns swept towards the 3 attacks, emitting light and heat, and instantly collided with the 3 attacks. Boom! A deafening explosion resounded, and then the 3 attacks and the 3 blazing suns in the void turned into nothingness at the same time. Zhuan stepped on the endless flames of the sun and instantly arrived in front of Mo Ying. Die! With a twist of his right hand, the blood spear spun at high speed and swept towards the center of Mo Ying's brows. Countless seas of blood wrapped around Mo Ying, forming a blood barrier that made it impossible for him to dodge. Mo Ying's eyes were gloomy as he held the black sword in his hand horizontally. All the black mist on his body gathered on the black sword, and in an instant, the slender black sword rapidly expanded, turning into 100 feet long. It stood horizontally in front of him like a sturdy sword shield. Can you block it? The chilling look in Zhuowen's eyes grew even more intense. The blood-red spear pressed against the sword and shield, emitting an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing against metal. It actually caused the demonic figure to continuously retreat. Break! Zhuowen's right hand slapped the hilt of the blood spear, and a powerful force surged out, and a touch of demonic red appeared on the tip of the blood spear. The black sword shield did not last for long. Under the terrifying power of the blood spear, traces of cracks appeared on its surface, and it finally crumbled into black powder. Swoosh! With the sword shield broken, Juan held the blood spear in his hand, and instantly passed by Mo Ying. Soon after, a miserable shriek continuously resounded in the sky above Yen City. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Numerous gazes gathered on the owner of the miserable shriek, and soon after, gasps rang out. The person who let out that miserable shriek was none other than the evildoer Mo Ying from the Heaven Peak Devil Palace. At this moment, Mo Ying was in an exceptionally miserable state. His arms and legs were all broken, and fresh blood spurted out, forming a misty blood rain in the sky. Juan, you actually dared to break my limbs. You are so ruthless. Mo Ying was on the verge of going crazy. Previously, he had lost his right arm because of Juan, and it was already extremely humiliating. Fortunately, the demon had used a secret technique to regenerate his arm. However, Juan did not kill him. Instead, he had broken his limbs in front of countless practitioners in Yen City. This was a naked humiliation that Mo Ying could not tolerate. Juan glanced indifferently at Mo Ying, whose limbs had been broken, and no longer paid any attention to him. Instead, he turned around and stared coldly at Zui Qingfeng and Xiaoyanzhua, who were nearby. The bone-chilling coldness made the two of them feel uneasy. So powerful! This kid is only around 20 years old. Not only has his cultivation reached the initial stage of the sovereign stage, but Mo Ying, Zui Qingfeng and Xiaoyanzhua's combined forces were also easily broken by him. Mo Ying even had his limbs broken. In terms of talent and strength, this kid is probably not inferior to the imperial family's prince, Mo Lingtian. When did such a monstrous genius appear in Yen City? After Juan had broken Mo Ying's limbs, Juan had become the focus of everyone's attention. Everyone was guessing the origin and identity of this young man named Juan. In the Ruan clan's martial arts arena, whether it was Ruan Xianfeng, Ruan Lingyu or Ling Ying, the three of them stood motionless like statues as they stared blankly at the devil-like figure in the sky. No matter what, they would never have imagined that the youth they thought to be ordinary would actually possess such formidable strength. Not only were Xiaoyanzhua, Zui Qingfeng, and Mo Ying's combined forces not a match for him, but Mo Ying's limbs were completely crippled by Juan as soon as they met. In their opinion, Xiaoyanzhua, Zui Qingfeng, and Mo Ying were all influential figures in Yen City. In their eyes, they were lofty and unreachable existences. But now, they had been crushed by Juan, and Mo Ying's fate was even more miserable. Lingyu, where did this Juan come from? How can his strength be so terrifying? Ruan Xuanfeng's voice trembled as he spoke. Ruan Lingyu shook her head and said with a complicated gaze, "Actually, I'm not sure either. Back then, we only rescued young Master Zhou from the road. Who knew that young Master Zhou had hidden his strength so well? Lingyu, with your kindness of saving him back then, if our Ruan clan has such a person to help us, how can we not rise?" Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes flickered as he spoke. Ruan Lingyu glanced at Ruan Xianfeng indifferently and said with waning interest, "Father, young Master Zhou has already completely expelled the cold from my body. He has already repaid the debt of saving my life. He doesn't owe our Ruan clan anything. On the contrary, our Ruan clan has been targeting him and going up against the Xiaoyan clan alone. Now that you've seen young Master Zhou's outstanding strength, do you think it's possible for him to revive our Ruan clan?" Ruan Lingyu was somewhat disappointed in her father, Ruan Xianfeng. Previously, he had treated Juan in such a manner. Not only did Juan not repay kindness with enmity, he even helped the Ruan clan go up against the Xiaoyan clan. Chapter 928. Flowing sword form, the two of you should stay behind as well. After saying that, Juan took a step forward and 3 pairs of lightning wings unfurled. He turned into a flash of lightning as the sea of blood behind him revolved around him, making him look terrifying and bloody. Xiaoyanzhua and Zui Qingfeng's expressions changed slightly. The scene of Juan instantly severing Mo Ying's 4 limbs was still fresh in their minds. They also began to feel a trace of fear toward Jun. Young Master Zui Qingfeng, we only need to delay this person for a quarter of an hour. My Shaoyan family's old ancestor will arrive soon. I hope you can lend me a hand. Xiaoyan's was said to Zui Qingfeng somewhat anxiously. A quarter of an hour? Zui Qingfeng shot a meaningful glance at Xiaoyan's. It seemed like this Xiaoyan's wasn't someone easy to deal with. He actually secretly notified his family's old ancestor. Moreover, the Xiaoyan family was located in Yen City. Therefore, their old ancestor would arrive much faster than their Clear Void Valley and Devil Palace. According to Qing Shuzi's speed, Zui Qingfeng estimated that it would take him around half an incense stick's time to reach Yen City. Originally, this amount of time wasn't considered long for Zui Qingfeng. However, Zhuowen's strength had exceeded their expectations. He actually possessed a cultivation at the initial stage of the Exalted Realm. Moreover, his combat strength wasn't something an ordinary Exalted Realm cultivator could compare to. He'd broken through their joint attack in a few moves. The most miserable one was Emoing. All 4 of his limbs had been severed by Zhuan. If he couldn't recover, he would become a cripple from now on. Right now, Zui Qingfeng couldn't wait for more experts to arrive and restrain this troublesome fellow. The Xiaoyan family's old ancestor was a good candidate. Because the Xiaoyan family had a good relationship with the Clear Void Valley, even if Zhuan was captured by the Xiaoyan family's old ancestor, with Qing Shuzi's face, he could absolutely split the secrets on Zhuan with the Xiaoyan family's old ancestor. Good. Let's delay him for a quarter of an hour. As he spoke, Zui Qingfeng's gaze became extremely solemn. He slapped the jade wine gourd in his hand with his right hand. A green light flickered as the wine gourd continued to expand. It expanded until it was several dozen feet in size. When the cork was pulled out, the wine inside gushed out and transformed into giant water pythons. There were a total of 20 of them, and each of them was nearly 300 feet in size. Xiaoyan's didn't hold back either. He changed his hand seal, and waves of ice-blue cold air raged, wrapping his whole body in it. It actually formed a layer of ice-blue armor around his body. Xiaoyan's aura had actually risen from the peak of the Xuanzuan realm to the early stage of the Supreme Being realm, the same realm as Zhun. 6th Evolution Armor. Xiaoyan's had cultivated the 9 transformation ice god technique to the 6th transformation. The 6th transformation could release all the cold energy in the body and attach it to the surface of the caster's body, temporarily increasing the caster's strength. Xiaoyan's shouted loudly as he took a step forward, and then he flashed toward Zhuowen while covered in boundless icy blue cold energy. Zhuowen stood with his spear in hand. He took a step and also swept toward Xiaoyan's, not to be outdone. He swung his blood spear, and a monstrous sea of blood enveloped Xiaoyan's. A powerful blood energy erupted, wanting to completely crush Xiaoyan's. However, the ice-blue armor on the surface of Xiaoyan's body had extremely terrifying defensive power. The sea of blood that came into contact with the armor was actually frozen into ice by the powerful cold intent. Boom, boom, boom. In just an instant, the sea of blood that wrapped around Xiaoyan's body completely stilled and was condensed into a blood-red ice cube by the powerful cold energy. Then, the blood-red ice cube shattered, and Xiaoyan's threw a punch at Zhuowen with a domineering aura. Pumph! With a cold snort, Zhuowen swept out with his blood spear. The sharp tip of the spear collided with Xiaoyan's fist, and a powerful force exploded out, forming a ring-shaped shockwave. Xiaoyan's let out a muffled groan and retreated dozens of steps, while Zhuowen retreated 3 steps. There was no doubt that Zhuowen had the absolute upper hand in the first confrontation between the two. Boom! The moment Zhuowen stabilized his body, a series of roars sounded. Then, more than 20 huge anacondas that had been ready to attack intertwined with each other and swept toward Zhuowen. Their huge heads looked extremely ferocious. Zhuowen's eyes turned cold. He formed a sword sign with his right hand, and the infinite sword formation turned into rays of cold light that circled around Zhuowen's body. The 5th sword move of the infinite sword formation, flowing sword style. Then, the infinite sword formation turned into rays of sword light and began to spin above Zhuowen's head at high speed, turning into a terrifying sword light storm. The flowing sword style was a move that turned the sword light in the sword formation into a flowing wind, and formed a terrifying sword storm in a rotating manner. Its power was extremely shocking and terrifying. The flowing sword style was also the most powerful of the 5 sword moves of the infinite sword formation. Zhuan had already comprehended it back then, but he had never had the chance to use it. Puchi. The sword storm's power was extremely barbaric and terrifying. Although the surrounding anacondas were very ferocious, they were all crushed into countless water droplets in front of the sword storm. Not a single one survived. After killing more than 20 anacondas in an instant, the sword storm did not stop. It swept towards Zui Qingfeng in the sky, wanting to kill him as well. Zui Qingfeng's face changed slightly. He formed a sword sign with both hands, and countless sword shadows appeared around him, forming a sword shadow barrier. Countless sword shadows flickered in the barrier, and it looked quite spectacular. Bang, bang, bang. When the sword storm and the sword shadow barrier collided, the sound of heaven and earth shattering rang out. Then, the sword shadow barrier shook violently, as if it was about to collapse. Damn it! The sky! Zui Qingfeng's face turned ugly. A jade-colored leaf appeared in his right hand, and a trace of pain appeared in his eyes. This jade-colored leaf had the ability to teleport, and he did not have many on him. Last time, he had used one because of Zhuowen, and this time, he was forced to use it because of Zhuowen. How could Zui Qingfeng not feel pain? A crisp sound rang out, causing Zui Qingfeng's face to turn gloomy. He sighed and had no choice but to crush the jade-colored leaf. The moment the sword shadow barrier collapsed, Zui Qingfeng had already disappeared thousands of miles away. He escaped pretty fast. Seeing Zui Qingfeng teleport again, Yuan did not pursue the matter. Instead, he looked at Xiao Yenzhua and said indifferently, "Since Zui Qingfeng has already escaped, I can only vent my anger on you." As he spoke, Yuan stomped his foot, and the Azura blood spear was unleashed to the extreme. An endless sea of blood gushed out from the void, and Zhuowen's eyes turned scarlet, filled with bloodthirst. Kill! Looking at Zui Qingfeng fleeing and Zhuowen rushing in front of him, Xiao Yenzhua's face turned ugly. He said in a low voice, "Old ancestor will be here soon. I just need to hold on for a while. I don't believe that Zhuowen can kill me in such a short time." Clenching his teeth, Xiao Yenzhua did not retreat. Instead, he rushed towards Zhuowen. He threw out a punch, releasing a terrifying chill that seemed to shatter the surrounding space. Boom, boom, boom. In just an instant, the two of them collided, and a terrifying battle erupted. Needless to say, Xiao Yenzhua was at an absolute disadvantage. Fortunately, Xiao Yenzhua's armor was extremely sturdy. Even Zhuowen's blood spear could not pierce through it. Zhuowen. Our Xiao Yenzhua family's 9 transformation ice god technique has many powerful abilities. The armor on my body is transformed from the 6th transformation, and its defense is extremely powerful. So what if you're stronger than me? You can't pierce through my armor. You can only be held back by me. Seeing that Zhuowen's attack did not pierce through his armor, Xiao Yenzhua felt relieved and couldn't help but mock him. You want to die so badly? Very well, I'll fulfill your wish. Zhuowen's cold voice sounded, causing Xiao Yenzhua's face to stiffen. What did Zhuowen mean? Could it be that he has more powerful means? But soon Xiao Yenzhua rejected this idea. The current Zhuowen was already abnormal enough. If Zhuowen had more powerful means, then it would really be heaven-defying. Great Sun Nirvana Nirvana. Zhuowen's low voice sounded. Then, Xiao Yenzhua was shocked to see that Zhuowen had turned into 3 heads and 6 arms. Each of his 6 arms held a long spear, and Zhuowen's aura was several times stronger than before. 3 heads and 6 arms? Are you kidding me? What kind of secret technique is this? Xiao Yenzhua was stunned, and his lips trembled as he muttered. Azura blood spear aura, die for me. Zhuowen roared, and his 6 arms displayed the Azura blood spear aura at the same time. Suddenly, an endless sea of blood gushed out from the void. It was as if the entire sky was covered by the sea of blood, and it looked extremely terrifying. No! Xiao Yanzhua also felt the power of the Sea of Blood. It was much more terrifying than before, and deep fear and coldness appeared in his eyes. Puchi. The power of the Sea of Blood poured down, and heavily bombarded Xiao Yanzhua's body. Then, the indestructible armor on Xiao Yanzhua's body was torn to pieces. Xiao Yanzhua spat out a mouthful of blood, and fell from the sky like a withered leaf. His body was covered in blood, and he looked extremely miserable. I'll send you on your last journey. Jun looked down at the falling Xiao Yanzhua, took out a long spear, and threw it at Xiao Yanzhua with extreme speed. You dare to kill the head of my Xiao Yanzhua family? You're really bold. Get out of my way. A loud roar came from the sky, and then a burst of energy shot out and blocked the long spear. The long spear was deflected, and it swept past Xiao Yanzhua. Looking up, Yuan also noticed the figure that swept over from the sky. He said indifferently, "Who are you? How dare you meddle in my business?" The figure was wearing a long robe, and his hair was very short, with both sides of his hair white. He was actually a short-haired old man, and there was a deep scar on the right side of his face, which made him look extremely ferocious. I'm Xiao Yanba, the ancestor of the Xiao Yanzhua family. I think you're really bold. How dare you brazenly kill the people of my Xiao Yanzhua family? Xiao Yanba snorted coldly. At this moment, his figure was still 1,000 miles away, and his voice was spread by Yuan force. You can't stop the people that I, Zhuowen, want to kill. Chapter 929. Bai Mei shows his might, little bastard, how dare you? Xiao Yanba shouted angrily. Unfortunately, he was now 1,000 miles away from Zhuowen. It would take him some time to reach Zhuowen, so he couldn't stop him in time. If you dare to kill Xiao Yanzhua, my Xiaoyan family will not rest until you are dead. Xiao Yanba's voice boomed, but it didn't stop Zhuowen. Instead, he rushed toward Xiao Yanzhua at an even faster speed. Xiao Yanba's eyes widened and he flew into a rage. This kid is too arrogant. I have already said so, but this kid still dares to kill Xiao Yanzhua. He is really lawless. Don't kill me. I swear that if you don't kill me, my Xiaoyan family will not pursue the matter anymore. Xiao Yanzhua screamed. You won't pursue the matter? Although you said so, I still believe a dead person. After saying that, Zhuowen's 6 arms smashed down together. The terrifying force crushed Xiao Yanzhua, who didn't even have the chance to make a sound, exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Xiao Yanzhua's nascent soul was also destroyed by Jun. He didn't survive at all. Xiao Yanba roared. His eyes were red, and he arrived above Zhuowen in an instant. He blasted out his right palm, and the icy cold origin energy turned into an ice mountain, crushing down on Zhuowen. Zhuowen turned around and stood quietly. He looked up at the ice mountain that was getting closer and closer, and the corner of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Zhuowen. A tyrannical force gushed out, and the terrifying ice mountain was instantly shattered into countless ice shards. The figure that stood in front of Zhuowen wasn't very old. He was about 25 years old, and his face was quite handsome. His eyebrows were pale white. It was Heavenly Master Whitebrow, who had reconstructed his body. Xiao Yanba floated in the air, looking down at Zhuowen and Heavenly Master Whitebrow. He frowned slightly. He actually felt a faint sense of threat from Heavenly Master Whitebrow. Xiao Yanba stared at the white-browed Heavenly Exalt and muttered in a low voice, "Was I mistaken?" However, Xiao Yanba's arrival caused an uproar among the onlookers in Yen City. No one had expected that the ancestor of the Xiaoyan family, Xiao Yanba, who had not shown himself for a long time, would actually appear. It was said that Xiao Yanba's cultivation had reached the early stage of Golden Exalt many years ago. Now, it was impossible for his cultivation to remain the same. He might have reached an even higher level. Even though Xiao Yanba's cultivation had stagnated for many years, his Golden Exalt cultivation alone was enough to make him one of the top experts in Yen City. After all, there were very few Heavenly Exalts in Yen City, and all of them were in the 5 superpowers. The other superpowers didn't have any Heavenly Exalts at all. Therefore, there were very few people below the 5 great powers who dared to offend an existence like Xiaoyan. When they thought of this, many people looked at Zhuowen with pity. This lad was really unlucky. He had actually killed Xiaoyan in front of Xiaoyan. This lad's fate would be very miserable. Yuan is done for. He actually provoked someone like Xiaoyan. Even if he doesn't die, he'll still die, Leng Ying said sarcastically in the Ruan family's martial arts arena. Ruan Xianfeng frowned slightly. He hadn't expected that the Xiaoyan family would actually call out their ancestor. They had actually attached so much importance to Zhuowen. At this moment, Yuan was standing on the roof of a tiled house with his back straight. The white-browed heavenly exalt was standing obediently beside him like a servant. Is your Xiaoyan family that great? It was your Xiaoyan family, Xiaoyan Pu, who provoked me first. The reason why things have developed to this point is that your Xiaoyan family thinks too highly of yourselves. That's why you've ended up like this. A mere late-stage golden exalt martialist. If you don't want the Xiaoyan family to be destroyed, I advise you to scram. Zhuowen's indifferent voice slowly resounded, causing an uproar to erupt. That was a little too arrogant. Xiaoyan was the ancestor of the Xiaoyan family. He had an important position in the Xiaoyan family. Now, a lad who still smelled of his mother's milk was asking Xiaoyan to scram. That was a little too arrogant. Therefore, when Zhuowen said those words, the first thought that came to everyone's mind was that this person was crazy. The second thought was that this lad was simply courting death. In Yen City, no one has ever dared to speak to me like that. You're courting death, Xiaoyan said coldly with a chilling gaze. Courting death? You'll know if I'm courting death later. White-browed, kill this noisy person. With a faint smile, Yuan instructed white-browed heavenly master beside him. Then, he began to collect Xiaoyan's corpse. After all, Xiaoyan was the family head of the Xiaoyan family. He had a spiritual ring, so there must be a lot of good things in it. Many martialists rolled their eyes when they saw Zhuowen leisurely collecting Xiaoyan's corpse. However, no one dared to step forward to stop him. The powerful strength that Zhuowen had just displayed was still vivid in their minds. Besides Xiaoyan's, Yuan naturally did not let go of Mo Ying, who had lost all 4 of his limbs and was already half dead. You're very confident. Do you think that this lad is a match for me? Xiaoyan frowned slightly and snorted coldly. Oh, are you questioning my master's judgment? You're just a mere golden exalt martialist. In my eyes, you're just an ant. How dare you think that I'm not a match for you? White-browed heavenly master suddenly smiled. A heavenly aura gushed out. With him as the epicenter, a terrifying gale swept out, and the surrounding space faintly showed signs of collapsing. Heavenly exalt? Xiaoyan face stiffened as if he had seen a ghost. What's going on? Why does Yuan have a heavenly exalt martialist by his side? Moreover, white-browed heavenly master addressed Zhuowen as master. Is this heavenly exalt martialist actually this young man's servant? At this moment, Xiaoyan was in a mess. He was actually stunned in midair. Not only Xiaoyan but many other martialists in Yen City were also stunned. Some of them even had their mouths wide open. The shock in their eyes was even more intense than Xiaoyan. A heavenly exalt martialist was an overlord in Yen City. It was a supreme existence, and it was also a terrifying existence that was comparable to a sect master. However, such a terrifying existence was actually just a servant of a sovereign martialist. Now, even a fool would know that this young man named Zhuowen had a powerful background. It was so powerful that it made everyone feel suffocated. If even his servant was a heavenly venerable realm powerhouse, then how terrifying was the power behind Zhuowen? It was already unimaginable to them. At this moment, the pity in everyone's eyes when they looked at Zhuowen had already vanished. Instead, it was replaced by deep fear and reverence. Many people even started to look at Xiaoyan, who had an ugly expression on his face, with ridicule. Not to mention the power behind this mysterious Zhuowen, just white-browed heavenly master alone was enough to make Xiaoyan suffer. Young Master Zhuowen, I'm afraid this is a misunderstanding. Are you from the Eastern Land's 9 Netherworld realm? This old man's eyes were blurred and he didn't recognize your identity. I'm really sorry. Xiaoyanba's attitude suddenly took a 360-degree turn as he cupped his hands and smiled at Jun. Xiaoyanba's change in attitude obviously shocked everyone. Who was the one who had said that he wanted to kill Zhuowen? Now that Zhuowen's servant had displayed the strength of a heavenly exalt, Xiaoyanba immediately forced a smile. He was really snobbish. Eastern Land's 9 Netherworld realm? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes when he heard Xiaoyanba's words. He knew that the 9 Netherworld realm should be the core area of the Eastern Lands. However, he had never heard of it before. It was obvious that only the upper echelons of some major powers knew about it. Moreover, the 9 Netherworld realm was probably filled with experts. Otherwise, Xiaoyanba would have immediately linked his origin to the so-called 9 Netherworld realm after seeing that he had a heavenly exalt as a servant. Thinking of this, Zhuowen didn't think too much about the 9 Netherworld realm. He had Xiang Tianzuan and a few other heavenly exalts in his spirit ring. They were all top experts of the Qingxian Empire and would definitely know about the 9 Netherworld realm. He could ask them when the time came. Misunderstanding? I don't think so. White-browed, kill this noisy guy. Zhuowen ordered lightly. White-browed heavenly master laughed sinisterly and rushed toward Xiaoyanba. The power of a heavenly exalt was fully displayed. Xiaoyanba cursed in his heart. He didn't dare to fight and directly ran away. The difference between a heavenly exalt and a golden exalt was huge. Even if Xiaoyanba's cultivation had reached the peak of the golden exalt realm, he was probably no match for an initial heavenly exalt. Only a monstrous genius could challenge someone of a higher realm. Of course, Xiaoyanba wasn't such a monstrous genius. He was just a very ordinary golden exalt. If he encountered a heavenly exalt, he would be killed instantly. Do you think you can escape? White-browed heavenly master snorted coldly. He leaped and instantly blocked Xiaoyanba's path. Without saying a word, he struck out with his palm and mercilessly attacked Xiaoyanba. Xiaoyanba wasn't strong. He only lasted for a quarter of an hour before being killed by white-browed heavenly master. His physical body collapsed, and even his nascent soul wasn't spared. Dead. The ancestor of the Xiaoyan family, Xiaoyanba, is dead. The moment Xiaoyanba died under white-browed heavenly master's palm, all the spectating Yen City warriors were shocked. Everyone knew that the Xiaoyan family was completely finished. From young to old, the Xiaoyan family was almost completely massacred by Zhuowen. Moreover, some of the elite experts were also killed by Zhuowen. The rest were just small fries. There was no doubt that the Xiaoyan family would be completely devoured by the competing forces in the following period of time. After all, the high-ranking warriors were all dead. Even the strongest ancestor, Xiaoyanba, had fallen. The Xiaoyan family's destruction was inevitable. Many warriors sighed. The Xiaoyan family was one of the 4 strongest families in Yen City. However, it was destroyed because they offended a young man that they shouldn't have offended. White-browed heavenly master returned. At the same time, he brought Xiaoyanba's spirit ring and respectfully handed it to Jun. Let's leave this place first. Demon Taoist and Qing Su will be here soon. These two aren't easy to deal with. Chapter 930. 9 Nether Realm. Not long after Zhuowen and the White-brow Heavenly Sovereign left, a figure appeared in the sky with Zui Qingfeng. This person's hair and beard were all white, and he wore a long green and white robe. His face was dignified and dignified. Clear Void Valley's sect master, Qing Shuzi. I didn't expect such a person to come. Some sharp-eyed people below Yen City quickly recognized this white-haired old man. Xiaoyanba from the Xiaoyan family is also dead? Could it be that Zhuowen killed him? Qing Shuzi's gaze quickly fell on Xiaoyanba's corpse as he muttered with a frown. Sect Master. Xiaoyanba wasn't killed by Zhuowen, but by a heavenly sovereign servant by his side. Zui Qingfeng, who was standing behind Qing Shuzi, suddenly said respectfully. Qing Shuzi's eyes narrowed as he replied with some surprise. What did you say? That Zhuowen has a heavenly sovereign servant? A heavenly sovereign expert? Zui Qingfeng nodded. He used the leaf to teleport nearly 1,000 miles away, but he didn't leave completely. Instead, he silently observed Zhuowen from afar. Naturally, he saw the scene of Xiaoyanba's death. Sect Master. This Zhuowen's identity isn't ordinary. I'm afraid he's from the Nine Nether Realm. Should we continue to investigate this kid? Zue Qingfeng asked with some hesitation. After witnessing Zhuowen's terrifying strength and the white-brow heavenly sovereign beside him, Zue Qingfeng really didn't want to make an enemy out of Zhuowen. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. He was truly afraid of that Zhuowen. Someone from the Nine Nether Realm? I don't think that's possible. The Nine Nether Realm is the core of the Eastern Lands. That's the real world of the Eastern Lands. Why would anyone be willing to come to such a remote place like our Yanxian Empire? Didn't you say it before? That Zhuowen has a heavenly sovereign nascent soul. From the looks of it, this kid has a secret technique that allowed him to restore the physical body of a heavenly sovereign nascent soul. The price should be for the heavenly sovereign nascent soul to recognize him as its master. Qing Shuzi's eyes flashed with wisdom. He pointed out the crux of the matter with just one sentence. Zue Qingfeng felt that it made sense. What kind of place was the Nine Nether Realm? The martial artists there disdained to come to this remote corner. Suddenly, an endless amount of black fog surged over from the sky. Immediately, the black fog descended, forming an inverted funnel shape. Finally, a proud figure with black hair and black eyes appeared. Qing Shuzi. What about Zhuowen? The figure arrived in front of Qing Su and questioned him rudely. That little bastard got away. Qing Su coldly snorted and asked Zhe Qingfeng to repeat what had just happened. Demon Daoist's face gradually darkened. You said that Mo Ying's limbs were cut off by Zhuowen? Demon Daoist coldly snorted. His gaze quickly locked onto a deep pit below. Inside the pit, Mo Ying's aura was dispirited. His limbs were broken, and he had fallen into a state of delirium. Demon Daoist came to Mo Ying's side and pointed his sword finger at the center of his forehead. A surge of origin energy surged into Mo Ying's body, causing the originally delirious Mo Ying to regain his consciousness. Even his Danton was crippled? During the process of injecting origin energy, Demon Daoist quickly discovered that Mo Ying's Dantian had become extremely shriveled. It was obvious that he was completely crippled. At this moment, Demon Daoist's face was extremely ugly. If Mo Ying's limbs were only broken, he might have a way to restore them. But with his Dantian crippled, even he was helpless. Palace Master, you must avenge me. That Zhuowen destroyed me and turned me into a complete cripple. You must avenge me. Mo Ying's face was ferocious as he roared. Demon Daoist took a deep breath. The coldness in his eyes became even more intense. He indifferently said, "Don't worry. I won't let that Zhuowen go. Mo Ying, you're already a cripple now. Living is also painful. Why don't I send you on your way?" After speaking, Demon Daoist pressed his right hand on Mo Ying's forehead. A surge of origin energy invaded Mo Ying's mind. Mo Ying struggled a few times before completely losing his breath. Looking at Demon Daoist's actions, Qing Su and Zhe Qingfeng both felt a chill. Demon Daoist's style of doing things was becoming more and more like a devil. Just because Mo Ying became a cripple, he didn't hesitate to kill him. Yen City is so big now. Finding a person is like finding a needle in a haystack. Demon Daoist arrived in front of Qing Su and indifferently said. Qing Su faintly smiled and said, "You don't need to worry about that. My Qing Su Valley has a lot of disciples and most of the businesses in Yen City are bought by my Qing Su Valley disciples. As long as I make an announcement in the valley and mobilize all the disciples in Yen City, the Zhuowen won't be able to escape. Unless he doesn't stay in the inn. Among the 5 superpowers, your Qing Su Valley has the most disciples. You're really recruiting just about anyone. This is also your Qing Su Valley style." Demon Daoist's gaze was somewhat disdainful. Among the 5 superpowers, the Qing Su Valley has the lowest requirement to recruit disciples. Therefore, they have the most disciples in the valley. Moreover, in order to expand their influence, the Qing Su Valley recruited many nominal disciples. These nominal disciples didn't have the qualifications to enter the Qing Su Valley. They only had the Qing Su Valley's name. In Yen City, The Qing-Su Valley had a lot of nominal disciples. Moreover, many of them bought businesses and did business in Yen City. Because of the Qing-Su Valley's name, the businesses of these nominal disciples were extremely prosperous. It was because of the existence of these nominal disciples that the Qing-Su Valley was the most well-informed among the 5 superpowers. Even the most powerful royal family couldn't compare to the Qing-Su Valley in terms of information. Then hurry up and spread the news. If that Jun leaves Yen City because of a misunderstanding, then it'll really be difficult for us to find him. Demon Taoist nodded his head and said in agreement. Qing-Su and Demon Taoist chatted for a while before leaving this place, leaving behind many speculations and discussions of Yen City's martial artists. The main character of their discussion was naturally Jun, who had just displayed his invincible might. The main character of this incident, Jun, had already quietly returned to the inn he was staying at. After discovering that there was no one following him outside the inn, Jun locked the door and asked the White Brow Heavenly Sovereign, "White Brow, do you know about the 9 Netherworld realm?" The White Brow Heavenly Sovereign wasn't surprised by Zhuowen's question. After all, Xiaoyanba had already mentioned it before. It would be strange if Zhuowen didn't ask. "I've heard of the 9 Netherworld realm. However, I don't know much about it. Xiang Tianzuan knows more about it than I do." The White Brow Heavenly Sovereign calmly said. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen flicked his finger and a ball of light appeared in the room. Within the ball of light was naturally Xiang Tianzuan's nascent soul. "Greetings, Master." Xiang Tianzuan respectfully cupped his hands towards Zhuowen. Soon after, his gaze landed on the White Brow Heavenly Sovereign beside Zhuowen as he asked somewhat uncertainly, "Your White Brow?" The White Brow Heavenly Sovereign smiled and said, "Master and Master Long have successfully helped me reconstruct my physical body. Congratulations." Xiang Tianzuan somewhat enviously stared at the White Brow Heavenly Sovereign. He somewhat believed Zhuowen's promise to reconstruct his physical body. "You don't have to be envious. Once I gather enough materials, I'll get Xiao He to help you reconstruct your physical body." Zhuowen naturally saw the envy on Xiang Tianzuan's face and chuckled. "Thank you, Master." Xiang Tianzuan hurriedly bowed and continued, "I wonder why Master has summoned me." Zhuowen lightly knocked on the armrest with his right hand and said indifferently, "You should know about the 9 Netherworld realm, right? Can you tell me about the 9 Netherworld realm? Also, how did Emperor Qing plan to bring the 5 spots to the God Academy?" Xiang Tianzuan was startled at first, but then he remembered that Zhuowen came from a lowly family, so it was understandable that he didn't know about this. Following Xiang Tianzuan's narration, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly, and he had a deeper understanding of the 9 Netherworld realm. The 9th Netherworld realm was the core area of the Eastern lands. It was said that it occupied 1/3 of the Eastern lands, while the remaining 2/3 were scattered with scattered forces. For example, the Qing Xian Empire and the Yen Xian Empire were members of these scattered forces. As the core area of the Eastern lands, the 9 Netherworld realm was filled with experts and forces. It was unknown how much more prosperous it was compared to other regions. It was said that there were saint experts in the 9 Netherworld realm. The 9 Netherworld realm, as its name implied, was divided into 9 regions. Each region had countless forces, and emperor-level experts could be seen everywhere. It could be said that an ordinary cultivator in the 9 Netherworld realm would be a top expert in the Qing Xian Empire. This was the difference between them. The 9 regions naturally had their own names. They were the Dragon Netherworld realm, the Divine Netherworld realm, the Martial Netherworld realm, the Flower Netherworld realm, the Desolate Netherworld realm, the Death Netherworld realm, the Killing Netherworld realm, the Demon Netherworld realm, and the Night Netherworld realm. These 9 regions were called the 9 Netherworld realm. It is said that the reason why the 9 Netherworld realm is divided like this is mainly because there is a saint in each region. The 9 Netherworld realms are also named after the saints in the Netherworld realm. At this point, Empyrean Ziyang hesitated for a moment before continuing. The Dragon Serene realm is the territory of the Azure Dragon Main Hall, and the Main Hall's Hall Master, Long Sheng, is a renowned saint and extremely powerful. The Azure Dragon Main Hall is in the Dragon Netherworld realm? Hearing this, Zhuowen's pupils shrank. It seemed that the dragon netherworld realm was not a good place for him. He was a descendant of the Ryuka, and was the mortal enemy of the Blue Dragon Hall. In addition, Xiao Hei's character was not low. If the people of the dragon netherworld realm found out about his identity, he would definitely be hunted down and killed. Since the Blue Dragon Hall is in the 9 netherworld realm, does that mean the Fine Gods Academy is also in there? Zhuowen asked again. Xiang Tianzuan nodded and said, the Fine Gods Academy is divided into the outer courtyard and the inner courtyard. The outer courtyard is not in the 9 netherworld realm, but the mysterious inner courtyard is in the divine netherworld realm. It is said that the dean of the inner courtyard is also a powerful saint, and is famous throughout the 9 netherworld realm. Outer courtyard and inner courtyard? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. He had heard about the outer courtyard from Moyan Wushang. Moyan Wushang's identity was not ordinary, and seemed to have some relationship with the upper echelons of the outer courtyard. The outer courtyard that Moyan Wushang mentioned should be the outer courtyard of the Fine Gods Academy. In other words, the entrance exam this time is to enter the outer courtyard of the Fine Gods Academy? Zhuowen asked seriously. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.